Hello, everyone. Guys, I know that Leibowitz has his stream set to start 5 minutes later, but I don't know. They might already be in the stream, so yeah, we'll see. On. Oh, bollocks. Hello, can you see me?
I cannot see you, and your voice sounds very.
Yeah, hold on. Let me try switching browsers here. This is completely borked. Okay, well, strange. Is this one gonna work? Okay. Pardon me. Second. Oh my god.
You have a green screen. I just see green.
Yeah, no, on my end, you just look all green and pixelated. I don't know what's going on, but my browser just... Do you have anything other than StreamYard?
I do not. Why do you think that's what's causing it?
See.
Hold on, let me get here. Like Liam's here. The only problem is we're just seeing your green.
Yeah, if you look on my stream, I'm streaming by the way. If you look on my stream, you'll see what I'm seeing. Like it's just nonsense. I don't know what's causing this at all.
How do I get to your?
Hold on, I can just like send like a screenshot of it in our DM here. I don't know what the I don't know what the hell's causing this. Like it looks fine in like select your camera, select your microphone. You know, like pre-screen. Everything looks fine there. Everything works. Then when I get into the actual studio, it just breaks completely. I don't know why.
We can hear you perfectly.
Oh my god.
Who's Sleepy Zietzik?
Sleepy Ziatsic.
They said
Dude,
that.
are you showing the on your stream the link to the StreamYard?
No, I've got a special crop which doesn't show the link or anything. It just crops into like the actual thingy.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, Liam, I know you have Discord. Michael, would you be able to like download Discord or something?
Oh God.
I suppose no.
I
Then
don't.
that would like mess up your stream because you stream from StreamYard.
Right, and I've got it advertised this way. I
Oh
mean,
my god.
I don't mind. You could stream however you want. That's fine, and we can hear you. Like, can you what's the word I'm looking for here? Like not have us on the screen, just have you on your screen, but still do the debate.
Well, the problem is that now that I'm locked in on StreamYard, I was going to stream off the StreamYard. Now it's uh let me see if I got like a maybe I can get my camera up now. Hold on. I like stop the camera here.
And you've been having problems over on X.
Yeah. Um
How you doing, Liam?
I'm good. How are you doing? I don't think I'm lagging. I'm good. How are you doing?
No, you're not lagging. I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Zietzik? Zietzik? I don't know.
Is that somebody in the StreamYard or is that somebody in the comments?
So this guy says, I think Zulu has this in the bag. And then somebody says, how could you possibly say that after Liam dug a 10-foot hole and buried you?
Oh yeah, I think Zietzik is somebody I've debated before, and I think that's what that's a reference to.
All right. Well, hopefully Zulu gets in here.
Yeah. Hey, do you know how to, if I wanted to reverse, like horizontally, my camera, is there a way to do that on StreamYard?
I haven't got the slightest freaking idea.
Okay. No worries.
Probably, but I'm not tech savvy, and it's showtime, and Zulu's having problems.
Can anybody like
No,
go
I
into
have to
Michael's
rush you.
chat and tell him to let me back up because I dropped down to get rid of
I'm
my
outside.
camera.
I know my setup's a little
Just
janky.
tell
I
him to
wasn't
let
putting
me
the
back
camera
up.
around, but I'm here, so.
Tell Leibowitz to let me back up because I had to drop down to get rid of my camera on there to get it on here.
In video settings, mirror my camera, as Persephone said. Video settings? Where do I see that? Video settings.
Video, you must have it. I don't know. Maybe
I don't know.
mine. Hold on. Let me see. Let me check.
It should be
Visual
noted I'm on my
effects.
phone. I don't know if it's relevant, but
Let me in! Let me in!
yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah, I can mirror my camera.
Okay, Zulu's asking to be
Mike-
let in. Click the camera icon at the bottom, click the arrow on the gear icon. Yeah, I think that's just because I'm on my phone. I don't think I have that kind of option.
Zulu.
Hello! Can you hear
Okay,
me?
you're here.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
we
it's gonna
can
have to
hear
be
you.
this way, I suppose.
All right, that's fine. I'm missing the Scottish hair, the great red hair, but we'll have to make do.
Indeed.
The only thing I need to know is who's going first, and whoever doesn't go first then goes last. That's all I need to know, and then we can get started.
I'm okay with going second.
Is that okay with you, Zulu?
Sure.
All right.
Also, I don't know. All my OBS is also messed up now as well. Like I've got like some crazy ass blur effect. I don't know. I'll fix it later. But yeah, we've got a working setup now at least.
Awesome. That's great. You guys rock, both of you, by the way. Two young dudes. Let's go live.
Thank you.
Welcome to The Rational Egoist. I'm your host, Michael Leibowitz. I'm streaming on The Rational Egoist. I'm streaming on The Rational Alternative. Liquid Zulu is streaming on his place. He's got some camera trouble, so we don't get to see his wonderful, wonderful red hair. But Liam, we can see. We're going to have a great debate. These are two very smart young guys, both under 25, if my math is correct, or my memory, rather. So this is the format. Each guy gets a 10-minute opening. Then each guy gets 3 7-minute talking periods, 10-minute closing. Zulu's going to go first. Liam's going to go last. And each guy also can ask the other guy a question at some point. Like I said, we can't see Zulu. Zulu is a YouTuber. He's a philosopher. Liam is a student. He's also a junior fellow at the Objectivist Institute, right? No, the Objective Institute. It's called,
Objective
right?
Standard.
Objective Standard. What? Yeah. Objective Standard Institute. Sorry. Okay. So without further ado, this is a debate about whether objectivism is an open or closed system. We'll turn it over to Liquid Zulu. Your 10 minutes starts now, sir.
Hello. So yeah, thank you for having me on. All that jazz. My opening statement isn't 10 minutes, so I get time to do all that stuff this time. So, philosophy is the science that defines and studies the broadest abstractions possible to serve as man's cognitive guide. What is in contention here today is the proper method for the bracketing off of one philosophy as against another. Specifically, the proper method for the bracketing off of objectivism as against all others. I single this out in particular because the closed objectivists have taken to a peculiar stance on this front for objectivism that is absent from which is absent from the identification of every other philosophy. Namely, the claim they make is that objectivism has no identifiable essence and is rather the set of beliefs in philosophy that Ayn Rand held. This is not how one identifies any philosophy, and it is not how the closed objectivists identify any other philosophy. If philosophies truly are identified by this nominalist listing off of every position that a philosophy has on every philosophical issue that it tackles, then how could one identify whether someone is a Marxist, or a pragmatist, or a Kantian, unless that person had already listed off their position on every single philosophical issue? This would surely be impossible, and yet it is something that is done by every competent debater ever. What these competent debaters and historians of philosophy are doing is looking at the essential approach to philosophy that their interlocutor is taking. Is someone grounding their positions in dialectical materialism? Then they are a Marxist. Is someone holding that the true is whatever satisfies one's purposes? Then they are a pragmatist, and so on for every other sort of philosophy. What is not being done is waiting for a person to list off every position they hold and seeing if it is a one-to-one match for whomever is the canonical church father for that viewpoint. This is not at all idiosyncratic, not even among objectivist historians of philosophy. Peikoff tells us in his History of Philosophy that Aristotle the man had both Platonist and Aristotelian elements within him. It would simply be impossible to identify Aristotelian elements as separate to Aristotle the man if we were not identifying philosophies by reference to their essence. Indeed, whatever remote deviations Aristotle may have had from the core of this worldliness that he espoused should be bracketed off and ignored. That is how every science is done, and as such any competent historian of philosophy must do it also. The essence of objectivism is not that Ayn Rand discovered it. The essence is its total and explicit endorsement of the primacy of existence and corresponding application of that principle to every philosophical issue. As Peikoff tells us, quote, "In this respect, there has never been a philosophy to the present which explicitly states the issue of the primacy of existence and carries it out all the way to metaphysics, to epistemology, to ethics, to every issue of philosophy. And that is specifically in metaphysics what objectivism does. In this respect, I would characterize objectivism as the primacy of existence come for the first time to full, consistent, systematic, self-conscious expression." Unquote. Peikoff also states that the individual branches of philosophy can have essences. Namely, he tells us that, quote, "The essence of metaphysics is the step-by-step development of the corollaries of the existence axiom." Unquote. Pardon me, I'm just going to take a drink of water. My mouth's getting all crazy. The objectivist epistemology has an essence also. Namely, to be objective is to appeal to reality. It is to recognize the primacy that existence has over consciousness, and so on up the rest of the branches. If each individual branch in philosophy can have an identifiable essence, can the branches taken together as a whole not also have an essence? Mightn't we call that essence for a particular arrangement of the essences of the branches a particular philosophy? After all, if we are to take the closed objectivist position to its final conclusion, are we to accept that if Ayn Rand were to, on her deathbed, completely rescind all of her beliefs and accept Jesus Christ into her heart as her Lord and Saviour, that the proper objectivist approach to philosophy would be the Christian one? That all those people doing objectivism prior would be retroactively doing it wrong? Would every future historian of philosophy be duty-bound to use objectivist and Christian as synonyms, and come up with some other term for the philosophy we all know and love? This surely strikes any man as ludicrous. Would the proper method for a historian of philosophy not be to bracket this off as the delusions of a dying woman, and keep the term objectivism as identifying those essentials that Ayn Rand espoused? Because, again, the contention in this debate is what the proper method for the demarcation of different philosophies is. We cannot allow for the nominalist creep to force us into identifying some philosophy by what John Doe believed on the 18th of October 1978 at 11:42 p.m. We must recognize that individual human beings can vary their philosophy over time, and that this variation specifically refers to them holding different fundamental philosophical positions as they progress through life. That at different points John Doe, or Ayn Rand, or Immanuel Kant might be properly characterized as believing in different essential approaches to the broadest questions possibly answerable. That is, as believing in different philosophies identified by reference to their essence. If the closed objectivists are to be believed, no man could ever change his philosophy, as his philosophy would be an ephemeral blur, constantly adapting itself to every new position on philosophy that he comes to accept. This surely could not be characterized as anything approaching an objectivist approach to studying the history of philosophy. This is a nominalist poison that has clouded the minds of the closed objectivists, and cornered them into a worship of Ayn Rand. This approach, if successful, will lead to the death of the objectivist movement, and usher in the 10,000-year Kantian Reich. By this one drop, the entire meal becomes poison. All right, that's me done. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Zulu. Okay, Liam, you ready?
Yeah, I'm all good.
All right, go ahead. When you're down to 1 minute, I'll go like this.
Okay, sounds good. Ready? All right, let's go.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. First thing, thanks, Michael, thanks for hosting this. Zulu, thanks for agreeing to do this. Objectivism is the philosophy of Ayn Rand. And in order to establish why that's the case, there's a couple of fundamental issues we have to unpack. The first thing is the issue of definition. Definitions have a particular purpose. And there's a particular reason why definitions function the way they do. And it's because it's a solution to a problem. When you form concepts and you have an array of concepts, you have a need to organize them. You need to be able to differentiate what concept relates to another concept. And you do this by having two structural components of definitions. You have to first establish in what way a concept is similar to the rest of your concepts, and then you have to establish the way in which concepts are different than the rest of your concepts. And these are reflected in the structural components of the genus and the differentia. It's important to understand that definitions serve exclusively the purpose of conceptual clarity, and that definitions are, in fact, that's how you evaluate what a thing is. Definitions also presuppose a reference. It's something to define. Definitions are not themselves concepts. They're means by which you treat your concepts in order to organize concepts in the rest of your knowledge. With this understood, let's turn to philosophy. Philosophies are defined similarly. So just as if I'm defining man as a rational animal, and I have to identify how this concept relates to the rest of my knowledge, so too do philosophies. Now, I agree with you about the definition of philosophy. It's the discussion of the broadest abstractions with respect to man's relation to existence and his survival struggle. I think that's right. But in defining particular philosophies, you first have to ask the question, what are you defining? Prior to you being able to define a philosophy, you have to first identify what are the units? What is being subsumed by the units? In the case of conceptualizing philosophy, there's a progression. You start out with philosophies as a whole integrated unit. That's the sum of the philosophical principles held by a philosopher. And then from there, you can make abstractions. You can make an identification of this is the essence of a philosopher. But when you do that, what you're identifying what makes a philosophy unique from another philosophy. You're not identifying what the philosophy is, as if the parts of the philosophy which are non-essential are somehow not a part of the concept. This is, in fact, ironically, what Zulu accuses the closed objectivists of doing, of being nominalist. It is the case that definitions identify the uniquely distinguishing characteristic, but what they don't do is they don't omit the non-essential elements from being part of the concept. It's from these grounds that we can then turn to the issue of objectivism. Objectivism is a proper name. It's a proper name that was given to Ayn Rand's philosophy by herself. It's what she titled the integrated sum of her philosophical principles. And she gave it this name precisely for the reason that Zulu alluded to Peikoff giving, which is that her philosophy stands in contrast to the context in which she created her philosophy because of her distinct conception of objectivity, of being reality-oriented and carrying across the primacy of existence. That is not to say that objectivism is any belief Ayn Rand had. It's not. It's not to say that objectivism is only its essence. The essence is just what makes it distinct. And it's not to say that any belief that is objective is objectivism. For a belief, there's a term to evaluate the status, the epistemological status of a philosophy. And that's the term objective. The term objective is an epistemological classification. The term objectivism is a proper name that was given to objectivism by its creator. So why does it matter what terms you use and how you define it? We already established the value of definition. Well, the relevance of the term is important because if you're going to pursue knowledge and conceptualization within a society, you have to acknowledge that there's a division of intellectual labor. And because knowledge is pursued and contributed by multiple thinkers, take, for example, movements, take, for example, philosophical scholarship, or if you're trying to learn the body of context for which you're inheriting, you have a further need to, you have a further standard, a secondary, but constituting standard of how exactly you're going to evaluate what terms to use. And that's based on mutual clarity. So you're able to mutually participate with the rest of the people you're engaging with. And this dimension, this social dimension and public dimension of philosophizing adds considerations. It first obviously adds the consideration of mutually held terms for the purpose of clarity. So consistent usage of a semantic across scholarship so that there's not an equivocation. But it also adds a moral dimension to the evaluation of term usage because you have to be able to give credit where credit is due. You have to be able to be intellectually honest about what you have contributed. You have to have academic integrity. And you also need to have a clarity of allegiance to ideas. You need to be able to clearly designate which people are philosophical allies and which are not. Understanding that then, right, you can see the fallacies that are performed by the open objectivist camp. Now, I'm not going to, there's no need for me to reiterate things which are well established within the literature over this issue. Fact and Value by Peikoff covers this extensively. And there are many debates that are on YouTube right now between Stephen Hicks and Craig Biddle that cover this issue extensively. But I'll focus specifically on the fallacies that I believe Zulu performs, specifically in his approach for open objectivism. It's not the case that objectivists believe that there is no identifiable essence. It's not true. Peikoff explicitly identifies the essence of objectivism as the distinct conception of objectivity. But essences are not what a unit is. Essences are just, in fact, the distinguishing characteristic in contrast to what you're comparing it to. So instead of, it's actually the opposite. Objectivists are nominalists. The accusation is. Zulu says that people correctly identifies what philosophies are by their essences. But observe that in order to identify the essence of a philosophy, you first presuppose the unit, which you are then trying to identify the essence of. The essence does not precede the unit. The unit precedes the essence. And in fact, you can only identify the essential characteristics of a philosophy if you have first conceptualized the philosophy as an integrated unit. He then says that a defense of his approach is that Peikoff alludes to Aristotle having both Aristotelian and Platonic elements. And this is similar to maybe the way he might use the term objective. It's important to understand that the term Aristotelian and Platonic are terms that denote tradition. They do not denote a unit of a philosophy. They denote tradition. And this is because the historical context behind the scholarship on the term Aristotelian and Platonic are talking about tradition. They were given retroactively to the philosophers. Objectivism is not relevantly similar because objectivism was not, a term retroactively given to analyze the essential approach of Ayn Rand. Instead, objectivism is the proper name designated by the person. If in fact Aristotle had said, my philosophy is titled this, then that would be the basis for what his philosophy is. And then you could speak about the term Aristotelian in the sense of tradition. Okay, so if objectivism is not relevantly paired with Aristotelianism, then what would be the term that's similar to refer to the tradition of Ayn Rand? Well, if by the tradition of Ayn Rand, you mean what designates her, what is similar to his central method, the answer is you're just asking for the epistemological method of Ayn Rand, which of course is being objective. Being objective is an epistemological status of a philosopher's approach to an idea. Being objective is not the same thing as objectivism, the system designated by the proper name. And it's because of understanding the distinction between the essence of a philosophy and the units which are the philosophies themselves that you can understand in what way you can say there's essences of branches and there's essences of particular issues. It's because you're narrowing your focus for the purpose of clarity and for the purpose of study. But you cannot drop the context. You can't drop the context that you first have an integrated philosophy that you are then evaluating and abstracting in relationship to other philosophies, and then further abstracting a distinguishing method. The last thing is it's important to clarify this. The issue of open-closed objectivism is not the issue of whether or not Ayn Rand's philosophy was true. Whether or not Ayn Rand's philosophy was correct is completely distinct from whether or not we identify what her philosophy is with a given designator. You, in fact, could believe, like Liquid Zulu does, that Ayn Rand gets politics completely wrong. And that you could say, in fact, that she makes inconsistencies with her essential method of approach, in the same way Peikoff says to Aristotle. But that would not change that this philosophy is her philosophy. And it wouldn't mean that the philosophy is not objectivism. Objectivism is a designator. It's not an epistemological evaluation. That's my closing.
Thank you, Liam. Zulu, 7 minutes starts now.
Sure. So this is a debate, as far as I'm concerned, on what the proper method of doing the history of philosophy is. If we were to imagine that we were not a number of decades after Ayn Rand, but rather a number of centuries or a number of millennia after Ayn Rand, we would need to know what is objectivism. If we were doing history of philosophy, what is objectivism? What is objectivism not? That is the question of the debate. Namely, is objectivism an open system? The open system people are claiming that objectivism is one thing, The closed system people are claiming that it's another thing, right? And we don't even have to go out 100 years. We can start now. We can start now by going, okay, what is the proper way of identifying what objectivism is? And it is not a random collection of different beliefs and philosophy. That's not what is essential. Because what is non-essential objectivism, that's not relevant to the historian of philosophy. What is relevant to the historian of philosophy is what is essential. We don't need to know all the things that makes objectivism the exact same as any other philosophy. We need to know what distinguishes it from other philosophies. And what distinguishes it in particular from every other philosophy is the primacy of existence. That is what is relevant to us as historians of philosophy. We are not living next to Ayn Rand, developing this philosophy, trying to figure out what the essence of this thing is, trying to get at some new approach to philosophy. We are trying to look back through time and figure out what is this thing we're even talking about. And saying it's an enumeration of everything that Ayn Rand held to be true on philosophy, I should clarify, that is not how we do any other part of the history of philosophy. Liam, of course, mentioned that, well, Aristotelian and Platonist, they refer to intellectual traditions. They aren't referring to philosophies. Okay, well, what about pragmatist? Pragmatism is surely a philosophy, a much more recent one, in fact. Is there no essence to pragmatism? Is the essence of pragmatism whatever John Dewey believed? Surely not. There were different sorts of pragmatists. Peikoff, in fact, identifies two different sorts of pragmatists, who each share this one essential characteristic. That's how we know they are both pragmatists. We can do the same thing for objectivists. There are different sorts of objectivists, but they each share this fundamental characteristic. The characteristic being the explicit identification and application of the primacy of existence to every major philosophical issue. Let's see here. So I'm just reading through my notes, trying to find what is relevant. Yes, let's... Oh, actually, where was that? Yeah, I don't think calling it the philosophy of Ayn Rand even gets you close to identifying any sort of essence. You would have to just go through and read everything that Ayn Rand wrote on every potential philosophical issue to get what that means. Philosophy of Ayn Rand doesn't begin to identify an essence. So if we're supposed to be, as Liam says, one part of what we're supposed to be doing is at least identifying essences, saying it's the philosophy of Ayn Rand doesn't get us any closer on that front. If I just say, oh, the beliefs in philosophy that Karl Marx held, well, that doesn't get us any closer. If I don't know what Karl Marx believes, it doesn't get us any closer at figuring out what the hell the essence of being a Marxian is. Now, what would get us closer is if I started to elaborate on what dialectical materialism is. I said that is the essence of Marxism. Well, then we're a whole lot closer without even having any prior knowledge of what Karl Marx believes. This is the proper way to do a history of philosophy. If there is some identifiable essence of objectivism, as Liam notes, I think I'm correct in that identifiable essence. And I think that is the relevant part, as historians of philosophy, for us to point at. The irrelevant part is not what makes it the same, it's what makes it different. That's what we have to be pointing at. Like, what are we saying when we say objectivist? We're saying objectivist as against these other things. And yeah, I will finish off by saying I completely agree that the issue is not whether objectivism is true or not. And also, I do want to note that I disagree with Stephen Hicks. I saw that debate he had with Craig Biddle. I agree with Hicks's argument against... Biddle's argument against Hicks. I don't believe that objectivism means true philosophy. I think that's a frozen abstraction. But I agree on that point. Yeah, I'm done there.
Thanks, Zulu. Okay, Liam, go ahead. 7 minutes.
Thanks. Okay, so the way Zulu frames the conversation is he asks, what is objectivism? Right? And he treats this question as if it is the same question as, what is its essence? And he says that in order to successfully be a historian of philosophy, you need to be able to identify the essences of philosophies. I agree on the front that in order to be a historian of philosophy, you should be able to identify the distinction characteristics of philosophies according to others. But when you ask what is the essence of objectivism, you presuppose that there's a thing that you are identifying the essence of. The philosophy itself is the thing you are defining, right? In the same way, if I defined man, you have the concept, right? And you have this mental unit, and you are then contrasting this mental unit to the rest of your items of knowledge. The unit precedes the definition, and it precedes the essence, because the essence is your means of taking this and relating it to the rest of your ideas. So when you ask, what is the essence of objectivism? You're presupposing the essence of the unit, right? So you first have the unit, and then you have the essence. The essence is not the unit. The essence is what makes the unit distinct from the rest of your ideas. So when you ask, what is the essence? You also ask, in contrast to what? What is the difference of objectivism? You already know, you have the concrete, and then you're contrasting it to other things in respect to what it is. So I'll take Zulu's example for a moment. He says, does the closed objectivist believe that there is no essence to philosophies? No. Of course, there are essences to philosophies. There are things that make philosophies unique and distinct from other philosophies. But the whole point is that philosophies are not what makes them distinct. They are things that have distinguishing characteristics, right? So it's not as if the philosophy is the distinguishing characteristic, and that's the fallacy. And this is why it's a kind of nominalism, because it's not as if the essence, the definition, just is the term, or just is the concept. So is there no essence to pragmatism? There is. There is an essence to pragmatism, because pragmatism is not the philosophy of John Dewey. It's a tradition. Pragmatism has been identified as a tradition. They identify it as a tradition. And this is why these parallels don't work, because objectivism is not a tradition. Objectivism is a proper name for a philosophy. Now, the reason it's confusing is because in the history of philosophical scholarship, there is no, it's not common for philosophers to say, my philosophy is this. I will call my philosophy this and give it a name. But in fact, when you conceptualize philosophies, what do you have? You have the philosophy of John Dewey, right? And you have the other philosophies. And what you identify is you take the philosophies of these people, right? You take their philosophical works, you understand them as an integrated unit, and then you try to identify what the essential characteristics of their philosophies are. And now you conceptualize tradition, and you conceptualize approach. And then you can then talk about the approaches and how they relate to each other. And then you can take the approaches and then evaluate the concretes you abstracted from. But the whole point is that it's self-defeating to say that the system you're trying to identify is the essence. The system is what the essence is supposed to capture, so it comes first. So there is an essence to pragmatism, and objectivists believe that there are essences to philosophies. Zulu says, essentially, the confusion is that you're equivocating the level of abstraction, right? If you wanted to, it only makes sense historically to talk about philosophers as having certain philosophies and then abstracting away their essential approaches. So it is, like I said, like objectivism does have an essence. It has something which makes it distinct when compared to other particular philosophies. But the act of defining an essence presupposes that there are concrete particular philosophies that are an integrated unit. And so you can't simultaneously. Now, I do want to clarify what goes unresponded to, and what I'll further develop is that there's a moral dimension to the usage of terms. And it's because, one, of clarity, but it's also to a matter of justice and honesty. If something within the historical scholarship, if you're interested in engaging with the historical scholarship, which you are, because you're a member of a philosophical movement and you commit advocacies and you make content, then you have to consider the facts of what the terms mean historically. And are you being revisionary about the historical precedent of a term? Now, it's okay to be revisionary about the historical precedent of a term, but you have to give reasons why relating to the standards of clarity and the conventions surrounding it, right? Like Ayn Rand does this with egoism. The virtue of selfishness is a new conception of egoism. Like the term egoism didn't mean that. But what she's doing is she's giving an argument for why you should use that term to designate this idea. So in the same way, there's not an argument for why the term objectivism should, despite the fact being having developed scholarship, despite being the title given to an achievement made by a philosopher, should now be revised to just mean to substitute something which already has a term, which is being objective. So objectivism is not the same thing as the epistemological status of something being objective. So yeah, I mean, I'll start on there.
Thanks, Liam. Okay, Zulu, you're up.
Just to be clear, is this my final rebuttal, and then we go into, I can't remember the...
No, this is your second. You're getting 3.
Okay. So Liam is saying that I am framing this as what is objectivism and treating that as the same question, what is the essence of objectivism? And that to be a successful historian of philosophy, you have to identify essences, and he agrees with this. But then when you ask what the essence is, you presuppose that there is a thing that you are identifying the essence of. The philosophy is the thing that you are defining. Indeed, there already was this philosophy developed by Ayn Rand, and Nathaniel Branden, and other figures. And you can come along and figure out that essence. It was already there, and you can figure out what that essence was. Indeed, I'm not saying that you are doing this rationalistically, that you just have this essence in your mind, and then it comes out of that. Anything like that. There were these people who were discovering, namely Ayn Rand, she was discovering this particular approach to philosophy. And you can then, in retrospect, figure out what that approach was, what is essential to that approach. And that is how, in retrospect, you are supposed to talk about it. That's how you talk about every philosophy, in retrospect. You look at what is it essentially saying? What is this philosopher essentially saying? That's how you do it. Then there's the point on tradition versus Ayn Rand's approach to saying, this is my philosophy. So, Liam is saying that, well, pragmatism has already been identified. Pardon me. Pragmatism has already been identified as a tradition, whereas objectivism is not a tradition. So that's why pragmatism isn't just the philosophy of John Dewey, whereas objectivism is the philosophy of Ayn Rand. So my quandary would be, well, at what point does it become a tradition? When does it swap from being a tradition to something else? Whatever we want to call this other sort of way of identifying philosophies. If I were to become, let's say, vastly more popular, let's say we develop, immortality drugs tomorrow, and I live for thousands of years, and over that lifespan, I become vastly more popular than Ayn Rand, and I become like Mr. Objectivist. Everybody looks towards me for what objectivism means. And I'm saying what I'm saying. At that point, would it become a tradition? Or still, if 99% of the trillions of people who live across the galaxy all think of objectivism in the same way as I think about it, would it still be the honest thing to do? To stick by this zombie philosophy, this worship of a dead woman? Would that still be the correct way for historians of philosophy to identify this at odds with trillions of people, how they understand it? And if that's not the correct way, if objectivism could become a tradition under these conditions, well then, is it possible for me to then become like retroactively correct if a century out from now, I win out, as I predict, I win out and the objectivist movement is almost all open objectivists? And at that point, would it matter if Ayn Rand said, well, this is my philosophy, and that's what distinguishes her to the other traditions you're calling them? Would it matter, she said, that? Well, it wouldn't, because it's just a tradition. It is a tradition. So it doesn't matter if Ayn Rand is deviating it from it in this one way or in any other way, because it's a tradition. It doesn't matter if her deviation is saying that it's not a tradition. Let's say she even explicitly said exactly what Liam was saying, that this is not a tradition, this is my philosophy, this is what makes me different to everybody else, so on and so forth. She isn't explicitly saying that. But let's say she did. Would it matter, or could that just be a deviation from the tradition? And then Liam was saying that I didn't respond to the fact that there is a moral dimension to the usage of the terms. The one of clarity, but also justice and honesty. And that if you're interested in engaging in historical scholarship, then you have to consider what is being meant historically, and only be revisionary if you are giving reasons for why you're being revisionary. So I think I've given ample reasons with respect to these virtues, I think I've given those reasons in my work thus far, perhaps not in this debate. So I think it is dishonest to treat objectivism as this special case. I don't think you can just get to decree from on high, this is some special case. Historians of philosophy, for all future time, you're no longer allowed to treat objectivism as in the same genus as every other philosophy. You've got to treat this as this one special case. I don't think that's very honest. I don't think that is giving objectivism its due. This is exactly the sort of thing which leads, if you go onto any philosophy forum or ask any like professional philosopher, most of them at least, is objectivism a philosophy? Most of them say no. Objectivism isn't a philosophy. It's this special case. Sure, Ayn Rand, she came up with this amazing theory of epistemology. Whatever you think of the theory of epistemology, it is clearly she's doing epistemology there. Well, this is the sort of behavior which leads people to down that road. That's not giving objectivism its due. It's not treating it as a philosophy, as every other philosophy. It's treating it as this special case where we get our own little section, fenced off from the rest. That's not how you're supposed to do any sort of history of philosophy. So yeah, I think I'll be done there.
Am I good, Michael?
Yellow?
Am I good? Oh, I think I'm good, right? Okay, awesome. All right, I'll go. Okay, so Zulu asked the question, what is the essence of the approach? Like this is the thing that philosophical historians use. And then he agrees, right? He agreed that philosophies, there are first the units, the particular concrete philosophies, and then you abstract the essence from them. So he's agreeing with the epistemic point about definitions. But the point is now this. The point is that once you've asked the question, what is the essence of the approach, right? That's how you should talk about the philosophy in retrospect. That presupposes the goal and context for the active definition and the purposes of scholarship. Because in fact, part of scholarship is an investigation over what was the philosophy of a person, like developing and understanding their account, which is then, a precondition for the next element, which is what makes their account different, and which is how you think about the essential characteristic of their philosophy. So it is true that thinking in terms of essentials is required for philosophical scholarship. But it's not the case that you then drop the context over designating rigidly what a philosophy is and what it's not. It's wrong to say Aristotle's philosophy are certain things that he did not say. Even if you want to say that these things are Aristotelian tradition, you have to account for the whole context of this is an abstraction of method and an application of a method that Aristotle originated to this issue. So it's a matter of conceptual life or death, of clarity, life or death clarity, as to whether or not you define clearly what philosophies are and then what their approaches and essences are. And so it's the very same thing with objectivism. If you're going to ask, well, how does objectivism sit in the history of philosophy? If you're trying to answer these questions, you have to first know what objectivism is. And it's the same thing with Aristotelian scholarship and Hegelian scholarship. The only reason this is something that's confusing is because the proper name given to Ayn Rand's philosophy is done differently in the way that proper names have been given to other philosophies. For example, if we just retroactively say Aristotle's philosophy is Aristotle's philosophy, right? Aristotle didn't say this is my creation. Ayn Rand's doing it differently. She said this is my creation, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's the title she gave. It's like saying Atlas Shrugged isn't like each and every single page. Atlas Shrugged is like the general theme of the book. Atlas Shrugged isn't the theme of the book. The book has a theme, but the book is the book, and the book should be referred to as what it was titled by the person who invented the book as a matter of justice. And so this issue, because to response to this at the end, that he thinks that the term, he's given ample reason for why the term means something different. And he motivates this by talking about at what point does something become a tradition. Well, things don't become traditions. Like that, it's important to understand. Like that's not the way you should think about a term. Oh, it transitions from a philosophy to a tradition, or transitions to a proper name of a philosopher's philosophy and then to a tradition. The point is that we just have terms that designate philosophies, and we have terms that designate traditions. And you can understand whether the term does that based on the historical context surrounding the usage of the term. And importantly, how the ideas come about, and then how the conceptualization, the nomenclature of it comes about. Like I said, I already explained this with Aristotle. It's the same thing in pragmatism. As Zulu gives this example, he goes, well, what if I become really popular and I talk about objectivism, and I use the term objectivism as a tradition? Well, why is that inappropriate? Well, it's inappropriate for the same reason why, imagine you developed a novel or something like that. And you developed a novel based on the theme of Atlas Shrugged, the philosophical essence of Atlas Shrugged. And then you called the novel and all the books in the series Atlas Shrugged. It's not Atlas Shrugged. It's like Atlas Shrugged. It's essentially similar to Atlas Shrugged, but it's not Atlas Shrugged, right? And so the reason why, and this goes back to the point, is that you have the units and then you have the definition. If you are revisionary and you then change the term, or you treat the term objectivism as if it denotes tradition, what do you lose? You lose the integrity of the unit you're trying to define and categorize in the history of philosophy. And so when Zulu makes the comments that, well, movements, they need this kind of tradition in order to have integrity, and you need them in order to progress, it's the opposite. If you don't have an understanding clearly of what the units are that give rise to the abstraction of the method, and you don't clearly distinguish the philosophy as a unit versus the philosophy as the term to designate its approach, then you end up equivocating the two. And why is that unjust? It's unjust because you're wrongfully attributing things to a philosopher. You're misrepresenting the philosopher because the term designates their philosophy. And again, I think this particular point has not been addressed. That objectivism is not an epistemological classification of the essence of an idea. It's not. What it is, it's a proper name. When Zulu says, well, is it a kind of special pleading epistemologically? Is it a kind of unique, is it a dropping of principle, or is there some kind of inconsistency in approach when treating objectivism compared to other philosophies? No, it's the same approach. But the difference is that objectivism, its scholarship, and the generation of the nomenclature historically has been different. And so the treatment of the way you refer to it is necessarily different. If you decided tomorrow that you wanted to create a systematic philosophy, right, and that you wanted to, define its principles, and that was your philosophy, and you named it, right? You named it, Zuwilianism or whatever. And then, Eduardo, our good friend, takes your ideas. He's like, this is the essence of Zulu's thought. And then he goes off and he says, this is really Zuwilianism. This is the essence of what Zulu said. Well, why is that improper? Because it drops the context and misrepresents what your views are. It creates confusion, necessarily, because there is developed scholarship over the term. And in fact, if people were philosophical historians and you became very popular, it would be problematic for you to use the term objectivism, because your philosophy is understood by its contrast to this particular philosopher, abstracting her method and then apply it to your philosophy. But if you equivocate the method and the philosophy, it gets unclear what exactly the level of abstractions are in the causal history. I'll stop it there.
Thanks, Liam. All right, Zulu, this is your last 7-minute go around.
Cool. So yes, I'll start from the top. You're saying that I agreed that philosophies refer to units, and that you abstract the essence from them. Yeah, indeed. And then you're saying the point is that when you've asked what is the essence of the approach, that presupposed the goal and the context for scholarship. That part of the scholarship is investigation into what the philosophy was of a person, which then yields the second part, namely what is essential to that. And then I'm dropping the context of that first part. And that it would be, to sum up, that it would be wrong to say that Aristotle's philosophy is things that he didn't say. So this is not, again, how we do things anywhere else. In fact, these are actually two examples that I got from Onkar Gatti and somebody else who were trying to defend the closed theory, the closed objectivist system theory. So there's the theory of evolution versus Darwin's ideas in biology, where they were equivocating between, or making some sort of an equivalence between Darwin's ideas in biology and objectivism, whereas the theory of evolution would be equivalent to something. I don't know. It seems very clear to me that Darwin's ideas in biology would be equivalent to Ayn Rand's ideas in philosophy, and the theory of evolution would be equivalent to objectivism, right? I don't think it would be wrong to say that there are things in the theory of evolution that are not present in Darwin's ideas in biology. I don't think that would be wrong. Indeed, many developments have been made within the umbrella of the theory of evolution, which Darwin didn't identify, but they are doing the exact same essential thing that he was doing. The other example they gave was Einstein and his theory of general relativity. Now, Einstein, you're saying, well, Ayn Rand, she's saying that this is my philosophy. Einstein said, this is my theory on gravity, and it's called the general theory of relativity. This is my theory, right? But that doesn't mean that you can never make any developments on the general theory of relativity and have it still be part of the general theory of relativity. Indeed, there were, my apologies, it's been a while since I've done my physics education, but I'm almost certain, and I can look this up after the stream if you want, that there were other developments made in the general theory of relativity outside of what Einstein was saying, right? This is how we do things everywhere else. That's how you do it. And then you were saying that things, in response to my point about traditions, well, what if I became super popular, yada, 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 would it become a tradition? You're saying that things don't become traditions. Okay, so then, if every single person, let's say tomorrow, everybody on Earth watches this debate, and everybody except for Liam ends up agreeing with me, and they all become open objectivists. And then, presumably, because things can't become traditions, it wouldn't be a tradition. So therefore, we are no longer dealing with what would consist of a consistent use of a semantic across scholarship, because the consistent use of that semantic would then, from that point on, be the exact one that I'm stating, right? But in your opening statement, you were talking about the social dimension, how the social dimension of philosophizing adds the need of a consistent use of a semantic across scholarship, and that was the whole thrust of why I was being inconsistent in my use of a semantic. I'm breaking from not the tradition, I suppose. I'm breaking from something, but this is clearly at odds now, because you're saying that things can't become traditions. But if the consistent use of the semantic is my one, I suppose you could call it the traditionalist approach to it. Well, then we're no longer then. It's not consistent to be using the old head, the zombie approach to it. And lastly, you were saying that if you don't have an understanding of what the units are, then you end up equivocating, namely wrongfully attributing things to a philosopher. Now you're being very abstract there, which I find a problem with, because specifically your accusation would be that I'm attributing things to Ayn Rand, because you're holding this is a special case. Now, this is different to any other philosopher, right? So I would be attributing things to Ayn Rand, whereas if I were to talk about the modern pragmatist movement, where pragmatism has ended up, which I do frequently, you're not saying that I'm attributing things to John Dewey, right? It's, John Dewey didn't believe that Michael Rectenwald should be the presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. You're attributing things to him, which he never said. Of course, because I'm talking about the pragmatist philosophy, how it has progressed through time. So nobody would think that in that case. Nobody thinks when they watch my videos that I'm even the closed objectivists, nobody thinks that I'm saying that Ayn Rand is saying these things. Nobody thinks this. But the closed objectivists like us to pretend, like us to all put on our pretend hats and pretend that whenever anybody hears me say anything, that Ayn Rand is in effect speaking through my lips, that I'm just parroting off what Ayn Rand said. Nobody believes this. When I had a debate with Haz al-Din not too long ago, I don't believe that what he was saying was just Karl Marx possessing his body from beyond the grave, and he's attributing things to Karl Marx which Karl Marx never claimed. Nobody believes that. This is not what anybody believes. So I don't understand where this wrongful attribution of things to some philosopher comes from. Not some philosopher, specifically Ayn Rand. And I also, you're saying, well, you need to understand what the units are. Well, I don't understand what the unit is when you just say it's the set of beliefs held by Ayn Rand. I don't understand what the unit is. what would help me understand what the unit is saying, okay, well, this is what they're essentially saying, pointing at the essence, saying, okay, well, this is what's going on. That's how I recall what is the unit of Aristotle's philosophy. Well, I think back to the History of Philosophy by Leonard Peikoff, and I go, okay, well, what did Aristotle essentially say? Oh yeah, he was saying this essentially. He was essentially this worldly as against Plato's otherworldliness, and he was responding to these specific points, and that's how he built up his philosophy. That's what I think of when I think of Aristotle. And I'll close up there.
Thanks, Zulu. All right, Liam, this is your last 7 minute, and then you each get to ask each other a question and then closings.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, so let's start out with this. To clarify the issue of things becoming traditions, the point is that when I say things cannot simply become traditions, it's to say that in thinking of something as a tradition, as opposed to a particular philosopher's ideas, it's just the difference is the level of abstractness and the purpose of the abstraction and what the abstraction is a contrast with. Certainly, it would be the case that if you were inspired by Rand and you behaved Rand-like, or people were inspired by you and they behaved Zulu-like, you could say that there's a tradition here. And in that sense, like, of course, if people are following along, quote unquote, right, you can say there's tradition. But the point in contemplation, considering something as a tradition, or considering a philosophical whatever as a tradition, is the act of taking a concrete unit and then treating it as, okay, what is the essence of it? And then treating the essence as a unit and then using it as a measure for, okay, how do philosophies pair up to this unit, the abstract unit of the method, not the abstract unit of the particular philosophy. Now, it gives an example of Einstein's views as a theory, or Einstein's views as a scientist versus Einstein's theories. Well, this is actually completely consistent with what's being said, and it's why Onkar brings this example up. If you're trying to understand Einstein's views, right, in terms of Einstein's scientific understanding, if you're evaluating the ideas as a part of his wider understanding of physics, right? Well, then of course, then there are elements of general relativity, right, that are not part of Einstein's theory, right? So if you take the particular, principles about E equals mc squared, all the consequences of relative motion, whatever. If you're evaluating those as a part of Einstein's integrated scientific picture, well, then of course you would never refer to other things as general relativity. But in fact, general relativity denotes, right, a tradition, because you're thinking about the idea as a kind in contrast to other ideas. So do you understand? There's a distinction epistemologically between defining something with respect to the broader origin or the broader context in which it's conceived, right, which is the philosophy or whatever the thinker's system of ideas are, and then there's the issue of evaluating it with respect to the division of labor intellectually, and these are epistemological evaluations. They're not evaluations of who's responsible for whatever. Now, of course, if you tried to say, I think that point's been made clearly. Now, Zulu says, I'm not attributing anything to Ayn Rand. Well, whether you use the term objectivism to mean the philosophy of Ayn Rand, that doesn't change the act being performed and the signal it sends and the impact you have on the thing you're actually, in fact, participating in. It's like denying that you're choosing to live because you're not thinking in terms of I'm choosing to live. In fact, there is a context for the usage of a term. There is a scholarship. There is a movement that you are a part of.
I think my headphone just died there. And because there's a broader movement that you're a part of, you have to understand and consider those implications when you speak. In fact, it's like the Atlas Shrugged example I gave. I don't think that quite would respond to. And so I don't think there's an answer to the point. The point is that there is a distinct historical story. There's a causal story behind the nomenclature about objectivism, and it's the title of a philosophy. It's explicitly a title of philosophy. It's like this. It's like if somebody tried to say that I'm going to call somebody Liam, and when I call somebody Liam, I'm really talking about the style of their soul. I'm talking about the essence of their character. I'm not designating Liam the concrete. I'm using the term Liam, which has been designated as the proper name for a concrete. I'm going to use that as the term to designate people that are within, as the sense of life that Liam has, the tradition that he has. Well, of course, that's scholastically disruptive. You say, well, wouldn't it be bad scholastically if everybody became and believe what I believe? Wouldn't it be bad then if we called it objectivism? Well, no, because that drops the historical context. Reality sets the context. The reality is that there is a history of a scholarship using the term. And in fact, the primary literature, which these ideas are from and originate from and can be conversed and informative to the people who have received the benefits of the division of labor, the context would be completely contradictory because there'd be an equivocation between the scholarship, the ideas, and what these people believe. So this is exactly the point I made. I don't think this has been responded that revising a very well-established historical term within the historical precedent in this context is not something beneficial. And this goes back to you saying, well, I don't think that there's, what is objectivism's essence? What's its genus? And you said, well, objectivism, you have to think about it in terms of its essence. Essences are useful. That's why they exist. And you can explain Aristotle's philosophy using an essence. But it's important to understand that the essence is exactly that. It's a distinguishing characteristic. It's not the idea. The last point here is there's a comment about objectivism. Well, it's just an arbitrary set of beliefs. It's not a set of beliefs. The genus is clear. The genus of objectivism is very clear. Whenever you contrast it as a philosophy compared to other philosophies, it's the originator, right? It's the integrated sum. And you can then talk about, well, what's its essential characteristic as a philosophy versus the other ones in terms of the epistemological evaluation of that. And you can say it's objective, or you can talk about method. Yeah, I'll end that there. I'll save the rest for closing.
Thanks, Liam. We didn't discuss who got to ask first. Is it okay if Zulu asked the question first, Liam? Do you care?
Sure, that's fine.
All right. 5 minutes each for response. Is that enough time?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, Zulu, go ahead. You ask your question of Liam, and then Liam can ask a question of Zulu, and then closings.
Sure. So, I think that I've got two possible questions here. I'll go with the first one. So, I want to know, what are philosophers that change their viewpoint on some philosophical issue? Pardon me. So let's say if Ayn Rand had, on her deathbed, rescinded every position she held and embraced Jesus Christ as her Lord and Savior, would the proper objectivist position be Christianity? Or would this rightly be bracketed away as the delusions of a dying woman and not essential to the objectivist approach to philosophy? Namely, should we just say, oh, well, objectivism, she said it meant accepting Jesus Christ. Well, therefore, objectivists just are Christians now. Now we got to change all the books.
Yeah, so I think the answer to this question, it goes back to understanding the context and purpose of identifying a proper name and a definition. So a similar case historically, right, is you have Wittgenstein. So what Wittgenstein did is he created a treatise on philosophy. He solved it. He finished it. He beat philosophy. He wrote his book, whatever. And then afterwards, he just completely changed his mind. And he's like, no, I didn't really finish what I started. And he had a completely new approach, and the philosophy was different. And we make the distinction historically between early life and late life Wittgensteinian thought. Now, this is easy because we're thinking retroactively about, okay, we're giving the proper name. There wasn't an active labeling performed by Wittgenstein. Similar with Nietzsche, right? Like at the end of his life, I think his sister, he was like Luke or whatever, but at the end of his life, his sister was like writing stuff, and like that work is not Nietzsche's. It's not really Nietzsche's work. And so I'll give one more concrete to explain. Suppose for a moment you see somebody who goes through a massive reform in their character, right? There's an expression of this person's a different kind of person. They're a different person now. And there's a sense in which that's certainly true. The style of somebody's approach to life, the fundamental principles by which someone guides themselves, their values, those can be different across the course of their lives. And so you could rightfully designate, a substantial change between the two. Now, when Ayn Rand identifies her philosophy, right, she's doing that within the context of the philosophical ideas and principles, right? And in fact, it's okay to do that because she has an integrated view. Now, it is the case that, she didn't change her philosophy, late life, whatever. But suppose for a moment that Ayn Rand did become Christian at the end of her life. That wouldn't change the term objectivism, It wouldn't change the term objectivism, because the term objectivism is not dynamic. This is actually precisely the, oh wow, I'm sorry, there's a lot of dogs barking in the background. The term objectivism is, it's not dynamic. It's a proper name. And the attribution of the proper name was given to a particular philosophy. And if you could see that a person has substantial changes in their philosophical convictions across their life, and they say, well, this is my philosophy. It's like if I said when I was 13, this is who I am, right? And now I say this is who I am, and they're different. You just have to account for the context. It gets tricky because like just semantically, right? I'm using the same terms, but in fact, when you account for the context, I don't think there's a problem. So no, I don't think that objectivism, if Ayn Rand had visionary thoughts at the end of her life, I don't think what she designated as objectivism, what scholarship talks about, would change what it is.
Okay, Liam, thank you. Now you get to ask Zulu a question.
Okay. So if objectivism, according to you, is denoting a method of approach, it denotes a style of approaching philosophy, namely, primacy of existence applied consistently. There's already a concept for this, which is being objective. The term objective is an epistemological concept that, in fact, that's what it's defined as. It's orientation, it's reality focus, right? Why then would you then try to introduce or, reform a term to then mean the same thing as a term which already exists within your arsenal to then categorize philosophies and evaluate them?
Okay, so I'll say right off the bat, if I were to go to one of my Kantian friends, I know, shock and horror, but I do have them. I've got plenty of friends who are Kantians, don't worry, I'm not being racist. So if I were to say, well, you should be objective here, well, what would they take that to mean? They would take it to mean being collectively subjective, as Peikoff puts it. That's what they would claim being objective means. If I just say that, well, this guy, if I'm trying to explain philosophy to my little sister, I say, well, this philosopher, he's being objective. That wouldn't get her any closer to understanding what the heck I'm talking about. Because everybody is talking about being objective in different ways. Every philosopher, for the most part, they love claiming that they are the ones who are being objective. Now, how do we cut through this? Well, Ayn Rand, she has a specific understanding of what that means. She has her trichotomy, where most have their dichotomy. Being objective, that's out there. Objective is out there, whereas subjective is in here, right? She has her trichotomy, intrinsic versus objective versus subjective. Now, to be clear, she is being idiosyncratic here. If we're caring about having consistent semantics across scholarship, we have to acknowledge that she is being idiosyncratic. Now, she's correct in her idiosyncrasy, but she is being idiosyncratic. Now, so how would I identify the specific idiosyncrasy that I'm pointing to? I can't just say, well, I'm being objective. I can't just say that. What is your philosophy? Well, I like to be objective. Imagine if you tried to pull that off in any debate. Come on, Liam. Let's debates. If somebody came to you and said, well, what are you doing in philosophy? Well, I'm being objective. That's not gonna. There's gonna need to be a whole lot more than that. That's not sufficient. But if you said I'm an objectivist, well, that's okay. Now I understand what you're getting at. So that's what you have to do. You have to say, well, I'm not just being objective. I'm an objectivist. I have this particular understanding of what it means to be objective, and that is called objectivism. Okay, so, and, so we would have to call the person who is approaching, what is the name for the person who is approaching philosophy in this way? We don't call the person, what is their philosophy? Being objective. Well, that's not a philosophy, right? What do we call the person? It's a different, realm of words. I don't know the correct, I'm not a linguist, unfortunately. But it's the distinction between the activity they're doing, objectivists be objective, and how you refer to the person in particular. Oh, that is an objectivist. An objectivist is one who is objective. A swimmer is one who swims. Oh, what's his profession? Oh, he's a swimmer, right? He's a swimmer. He's one who swims. What is his profession? Swimming, right? That's the distinction. I think I think I'm good there.
Okay, now Zulu, you get to talk yet again. For your 10-minute closing, you can start now.
Sure. So let me see here. Yeah, I think overall, what needs to be kept in mind is what is the point of the debate. I think it's very clear. What is the point of the debate? How do you talk about objectivism? I think even Liam would agree with this. If we're to be proper historians of philosophy, how do you talk about objectivism? What is objectivism? What are we pointing at? Now, for any other set of beliefs, any other, he doesn't like that term actually, any other philosophy, we would be pointing at the essence if we're historians of philosophy. Oh, what does pragmatism mean? Oh, it's the philosophy which says such and such. It's the philosophy which holds that the true is that which satisfies your purposes. That's what's essential to it. Now you get what we're going after, right? That's how you do it for every other philosophy. Now, objectivism is supposed to be the special case in the mind of the closed objectivist. It's supposed to be a special case. But it just isn't, right? It's supposed to be a special case because Ayn Rand said so. Ayn Rand said, "This is my philosophy," and if we don't go away from that, if we go away from that in any way, well, then we're perhaps unintentionally attributing things to Ayn Rand when we're not supposed to. I mean, prove it, quite frankly. Find anybody who watches, for instance, any of my videos. My video on like the one where I respond to Ayn Rand, anarcho-capitalism responding to critics, right? Well, find somebody who's watching that video and going, yeah, this guy, he's parroting off what Ayn Rand says. He's attributing these things to Ayn Rand. Anybody apart from the closed objectivists who think that. Nobody actually believes that. I think this is it's ludicrous. He was telling us that there's this distinct historical causal story around the nomenclature about objectivism. And I can just come in and style it any way I want. There's this history about the primary literature. And the context of that is contradictory to everything I believe. Well, that is still dependent. And he's claiming I'm not responding to this point. Well, that point, I think I have, because that point is still depending upon the claim that I'm at least perhaps unintentionally attributing things to Ayn Rand. But nobody believes this. It's not that I am, that I'm effacing this historical literature, and I'm just spitting at it, because I'm not attributing things to what that is saying. I'm saying what I'm saying, only what I'm saying. Another point, Liam was saying that objectivism is not a set of beliefs. It's rather the integrator. I mean, well, no. Objectivism is not Ayn Rand. Surely, at least on the closed objectivist viewpoint, objectivism would be the philosophy of Ayn Rand. That is, the set of beliefs on philosophy that Ayn Rand held. How else am I supposed to interpret that? It isn't the integrator. The integrator is Ayn Rand. Objectivism isn't Ayn Rand, as it turns out. I think this is characteristic of the debate as a whole. I am just kind of following what every previous historian of philosophy does for every philosophy other than the closed objectivists for objectivism. And it is completely improper to make this special case. As Liam indeed himself told us, that if Ayn Rand were to have this crazy change towards Christianity at the end of her life, well, then we would have to make a distinction between early Rand and late Rand. Though we'd have to keep objectivism meaning exactly what it means right now, funnily enough. But then at the very least, we can bracket off these separate periods with respect. And how do we do that? We look at the essences. That's how we do it. And so, it still brings up the question, the ever-lingering question of, well, then what if Ayn Rand just said both were her philosophy right from the get-go? Would we have to accept contradiction within our history of philosophy? If some philosopher comes around tomorrow and says their philosophy both is A and not A, Will every historian of philosophy have to use contradictions from that point on? Like, it's nonsense. This is not how history of philosophy is supposed to be done. You don't just accept what the philosopher says on face value. She's doing this meta-level thing, sort of like a poisoning of the history of philosophy from that point on. Now, she just poisons it by saying, no, historians of philosophy, you've got to identify this as my philosophy. No, actually, I don't have to accept that. Actually, I can identify it perfectly well myself, thank you. You don't just accept what the philosopher says and go, yep, that's true. She's making a point here. You don't just say, yep, that's true, therefore, and now every historian of philosophy, if they're to be honest, they've got to accept that as true. They cannot break from that at all. No, that's not how it's done. He was also saying that, well, if Ayn Rand did change her view, then it wouldn't change, it wouldn't change the meaning of objectivism because it's a proper name. It was attributed to a particular philosophy. So then what would we say? That she is indeed breaking from the tradition, perhaps? It seems to me that she's breaking from some sort of tradition here. And that's how we're able to figure out that she's no longer an objectivist. I'm just trying to be consistent in that application there. Yeah, I'm done there.
I think your mic's muted, Michael.
Thank you, Zulu, and thank you, Liam, for pointing out my mic was muted because of my dogs were barking. Okay, Liam, go ahead. It's your turn for 10 minutes.
All right, I appreciate you. Yeah, so let's recap with this. The burden and issue of the conversation is about evaluating the usage of the term objectivism and is about what objectivism is, what its essence is. What we've established at the course of the conversation is the theoretical groundwork to evaluate definitions, term usage. The evaluation of definitions and term usage. We've seen that the concretes precede the essences, that you first have the concretes and then you can give them proper names, and then you can abstract away the distinguishing characteristic of certain concretes from others. You can then treat that abstraction as its own unit, and then you can treat the things that are subsumed within that unit as a tradition. That's the way that the conceptualizing works for philosophical scholarship. There's two components. There's identifying what philosophers have said, and then there's identifying the evaluation of those philosophers, how they're similar, how they resemble each other, how certain ideas resemble other ideas, how certain approaches can make use of certain ideas, things like that. That's the method. We both agree with the basic method. So the framing from the outset that objectivists frame themselves in a position, they weirdly participate in the history of philosophy, or they participate in a way that historians don't do. That's not true. They're operating in the exact same way. They're identifying what the philosophers say, what their views are, and then defining the essence. So objectivism cannot be the essence. That's not what the concept is. The concept is not the essence. Men are not just the rationality and their animality. They're particular concrete creatures that you refer to as a man because of their distinguishing characteristics when contrasted to other things. And given that, it's wrong to characterize objectivism as an open system, and it's wrong to characterize it as an approach. It flies in the face of the very standards that we agreed philosophical scholarship operates with. If you have the concrete, which is the item of study and the foundation for the abstraction of a certain method, if you then introduce into the scholarship a debate between the proper name of the idea you're studying and the essential approach of the idea you're studying, you're going to commit acts of equivocation. The objectivist epistemology, which is the conception of objectivity, is the essential feature of objectivism that makes it distinct from the other philosophies in kind, as a kind of philosophy. But it's not what objectivism is. If somebody believes that we should have anarchy, if somebody believes that tolerance is a cognitive virtue, these people do not endorse the philosophy of Ayn Rand. Now, you might want to make an argument that they're right. You might want to say that they are, in fact, being objective. But it'd be wrong to designate their ideas as part of objectivism, because objectivism is a proper name. We talked about how revising the standards or revising the usage of a term can be done. and that there's two kind of levels of consideration. There's the first, the conceptual consideration, and there's the fact that because there's a division of labor philosophically, there's mutual consistency standards. But of course, the primary standard is clarity, right? And in fact, Ayn Rand, right, as Lulu points out, uses the term objective in an idiosyncratic way, but it's philosophically proper and it's necessary given that it doesn't overturn the philosophical commitments. It's the very same thing with the term objectivism. And it's exactly the same way I gave the examples. You destroy the integrity of the thing you're trying to study and you're trying to abstract a tradition from when you take the term, which has, forever been meant this thing. The scholarship about the issue designates this as the term. And then you represent yourself as an advocate of the thing, which the scholarship, which is then emanated to the public, is different. You create confusion by using the term that way. Not only is it confusing, right? So that's already a level not to do it, but it's dishonest because as the creator of a thing, if you create something, you are entitled to label what you are. It's like if somebody didn't call you your name. It's like if somebody didn't call the book you wrote by the title you gave it. And in fact, they then took your name and attributed it to something that was like you, that had your likeness in some essential way that you've categorized. It drops the context and it's unjust. If you create a system and you enable it, there's a level of this is your thing. Now, there is a point that Zula makes. It's like, well, what if Ayn Rand, in doing this, poisoned the well? Because Ayn Rand named her philosophy what she did for a couple reasons. She couldn't name it existentialism, even though she, existence exists, right? That you would assume that her philosophy would be called existentialism, but it's not, right? And Ayn Rand, she deliberated this very issue when she named her philosophy. Like, well, I can't call it existentialism. There are people who use that term, right? And of course, she thinks that they're philosophically incorrect, but in terms of the issue of scholarship and presentations, it would not be able to do that. She couldn't call herself a logical positivist. Ayn Rand loved logic. Okay, she's not a logical positivist. And it's because that she's a contributor to philosophy within the context of philosophical society. And so she settled on objectivism for the reasons of she understands the essence of her philosophy, right? She has philosophy, she conceptualizes it, she understands its distinctness is its, epistemology. That's why it has the name it has. And so it's both unclarifying and it's unjust to refer to you that way. If your goal, if you're thinking morally now, like the issue of advocacy, if you're creating a movement and you are an advocate of a body of ideas that originate from a woman, and then the way it's emanated is there's scholarship and there's people who study it and philosophers and there's content creators, you are in fact undercutting the meaning of the primary issue of subject from the thing you're trying to advocate for. Right. And this is exactly the point of why calling yourself an objectivist is problematic when you're not. It's because you don't have the philosophy of Ayn Rand. And the term objectivist movement loses its meaning. This is precisely the problem with libertarianism. Okay, libertarians are advocates of liberty. Well, what exactly is the standard of liberty? Right? If you just want to purely define a movement in terms of its tradition, it begs the question, well, how do you get the tradition? Like, what is the understanding of the tradition? And of course, if you don't have very rigidly defined the understanding of the term and the context of the term and the philosophy from which the method is abstracted, then of course you degrade the intellectual integrity of the movement, which leads to disagreements and infighting and ultimately is unsuccessful. Look at libertarianism in America. Look at libertarian thought. It's not uniform. There's such a variety of conflicting, contradictory views. That's precisely because libertarians don't have intellectual integrity within their movement. They have this floating abstraction of liberty, and they don't have grounds to identify what exactly the context is to weigh people to it. Well, then if you say, well, the grounds is the primacy of existence, right? You have philosophical grounds to do that. The question is then the conception of objectivism. What's the grounds to do that? And in fact, in practice, whether you mean to or not, you're undercutting the efficacy of the movement you're advocating for, and you're undermining both intellectual clarity to yourself, people that adopt the same semantics you do, and potential people that will encounter your ideas in the future. Because now there are people that will not understand objectivism because there's 14-year-olds on Twitter who say, I'm an objectivist. And by objectivist, I mean, I believe in anarchy and I believe in the primacy of, that's destructive for the movement. It's clear to see that. I think on the actual philosophical issues, it's clear. Objectivism is not an arbitrary collection of beliefs because, again, the genus of objectivism is philosophy. Objectivism is the philosophy of Ayn Rand. It's not any belief she had. I think that's an incorrect characterization. And when I asked you the question, I think it becomes obvious, right? If you want to identify your philosophy, well, I don't think it's the case that every person needs a name for their philosophy. I don't think so. I don't think they need a single word to designate that. I think the obsession with concretization can sometimes be oversimplifying. David Kelly explains that, you can in fact correctly refer to something with a proposition. It's like if I tried to create a concept to refer to like a particular judgment I saw, like I see a tree in front of me, or I'm dating my girlfriend and I like Barcelona, the soccer team. Do I need a concept for that? No, I don't need a concept for that. I don't need to conceptualize and integrate to that higher level. Propositions in this case are adequate. In fact, describing your philosophy, I think a lot of times are adequate. If you want to describe your philosophy with the approach of I'm an objective thinker, okay, well, that's your epistemology. Your epistemology is, oh yeah, I like the objectivist epistemology. I agree with Ayn Rand's epistemology. It's not, this fetishization with, simplicity is in fact detrimental, because it's not the case you need to integrate into a single particular unit. Wrapping up with what I've said, objectivism is the philosophy of Ayn Rand.
Liam,
am I
sorry,
done?
but
Am I done? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's all. Thanks. Yeah, that's fine.
I wanted to let you keep going, but it wouldn't be fair.
That's fine.
Okay, guys, thank you for a great debate. You're both very, very bright young men. I think you'll be debating more in the future. And if you do, please come to me. I'd be more than happy to moderate. For people that aren't watching Zulu on his stream, Zulu, do you want to tell people where they can find you? And then Liam, you can do the same thing.
Sure, yeah. People can find me at youtube.com/Liquid Zulu. Just search up Liquid Zulu on the YouTube search bar. It'll come up. I also have a website, liquidzulu.github.io, where you can find, I've only got one course at the moment, but I will be making more. Don't you worry about that. And I'll be making one on objectivism, don't you worry. Further tweak those Google search results, because my site does appear in Google search results sometimes. Yeah, you can find me there. I make YouTube videos to do streams like this. I suppose Michael Leibowitz, if you're watching on my end, you can find him on Rational Egoist. I believe you have Capitalist Corner. Do you have any other shows?
Yes. Well, so the thanks, Zulu. Appreciate that. We've changed the channel now to the Rational Alternative because we have multiple shows on the channel. We have Capitalist Corner every day from noon to 1 Eastern time. Then from 2:30, sometimes we go a half hour, sometimes longer. We do Everyday Ethics 3 times a week. We do Crime, Corrections, and Culture on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 3:15 p.m. And on the weekends, we do a special philosophical edition of the Capitalist Corner. But thanks, Zulu. I appreciate that.
Yeah, if people are interested in where you can find me.
That's where I'm coming next, Liam.
Okay.
What'd you think? I wasn't going to ask you?
No, you got it.
Screw you. We're done here, right? Liam, go ahead. Tell people where they
Quick,
can
cut the
find
stream,
you.
quick.
Yeah. So my name's Liam. You guys can find me. My internet personality, my name is Divinityy. Sometimes I go by Prophet Divinity. Prophet Divinity on TikTok.com. Prophet Divinity on YouTube. My primary production of content is on Substack, so you can find my Substack just Liam Staten. If you type in Liam Staten on the search bar, you'll find my link done, and you can just contact me from there. I also have a Twitter, and I think my Twitter is like X Divinity or something along those lines. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. Thank you to the audience. For now, this is the Rational Egoist signing out. I'm Michael Leibowitz. Take care.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
By the way, I am still streaming because I got to read super chats after this.
I just want to tell you guys both, very respectful debate. Really appreciate it. That's how debates should be done. And if you guys want to do it again on another topic, I'm happy to moderate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun. Yeah.
All right. Take care, guys, and take care, Zulu's stream watchers.
Yep. See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
All righty. I think that went well. All right, yes. But yeah, before I go into super chats, I did have some interesting observations from his closing statement there. I think are quite odd. And also, I don't know what the fuck's going on with my cam. I had to like add my camera. So now I'm like surrounded by fog. I'll get it fixed for next stream and never use StreamYard capture again, I suppose. But this doesn't happen again. I'm completely surrounded by fog. Terrible. Yeah, no, he was saying that someone can potentially, if anarchism is correct, someone can be objective and be an anarchist. You know, if he wants to stream, then he can tear apart my closing statement as well if he wants. Besides, he got to go second on the closing statements. I get to have a little word in here, I think. Yeah, so he's saying someone can be objective in being an anarchist. But hang on, I thought being objective was what he was saying, was the essence of objectivism. And, you know, you're saying the essence of objectivism, well, that's still part of objectivism. If being an anarchist is indeed an application of being objective, would that not be part, in fact, the essence, part of the essence of objectivism? That's not exactly what I've been claiming. So that one was odd. And then he was saying that, well, libertarianism has no philosophical grounds. It's just, this is why the libertarian movement is so blah, 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 so on and so forth. Well, actually, you know, Rothbard did explicitly state the term libertarianism as his theories in law. He did actually explicitly state that. He was like, we're taking it back from the leftists. This is my theory on law. In the exact same way that Ayn Rand was saying, well, this is my theory in philosophy. So, I mean, it's the same sort of thing, guy. But yeah. Let's get these super chats. Pop it out. Oh yeah, what do you guys think about this? It went well. Fan funding. Ooh, a lot of super chats. Thank you very much. Zulu and his viewers are the reason why I'm now objectivist adjacent. I think you'll learn a lot here off as well. Indeed, well, yeah, I am the new wave in the objectivist movement. I can either suck it up or die out. Yeah, super chats. Toten Music, KBN for $2. Thank you very much. Privyet Comrades. Don't know what that means, but thank you very much. And we've got Griff1 Nun for $5. Thank you very much. I'm going to miss the days when streams aren't screwed up anymore. Streams are... I don't know. Well, thank you very much for the money. Was my stream screwed up today? I suppose, yeah, well, I'm surrounded by fog, so yeah, I suppose it was screwed up. And then Eli YJ4PT for $2. Thank you very much. Get a haircut. You're starting to look like Marx. I probably will get a haircut soon. It's getting into summer. I don't want to have this for summer. It's going to be too much. Then Hanobtike for $10 Thank you very much. I've seen more often the dark side of the moon than the back of Zulu's head. That is the real conspiracy. Indeed, you'll never... I don't actually have a back of my head. It's like, have you seen that material Vantablack? It's just a void back there. It doesn't actually exist. I'm like a 2D representation. The Mossad just generate me. I'm an AI character. So unfortunately, you're never going to see that. Yeah, thank you very much for the money. And I also got a donation from Zulu Supporter on Ko-fi. Let me know, Zulu Supporter. I want that read aloud on stream. I'll open up the Ko-fi now, in fact, to see if it's saying that explicitly. I'm not saying it explicitly, but it is in relation to the stream, so thank you very much, Zulu Supporter, for the money. Again, on the back end of Ko-fi, on my end of Ko-fi, I don't actually see if it's supposed to be public or private or not, if the amount of money is supposed to be public or not, so I've got to keep that private unless explicitly stated, so apologies if you did want that read out on stream. Yeah. And then another from Pano Teak. for 50 Canadian dollars. Jesus, that's a lot of money, man. Thank you. Is Objectivism the philosophy of Peikoff 2? Is Objectivism the philosophy of Liquid Zulu? The philosophy of Ayn Rand is Objectivism, and Objectivism is the philosophy of Ayn Rand, and the philosophy of Ayn Rand. Loop ad infinitum. Nothing is defined. Yeah, I mean, I was, I did like when I snuck that past, where I was like, yeah, sure. Objectivism is this particular philosophy. It was developed by, people like Ayn Rand and Nathaniel Brand, and I couldn't see them, but I could just feel them like tense up when I mentioned Nathaniel Brand. And it's always fun with the closed objectivists to say that Nathaniel Brandon did something in objectivism. It's always fun. And then we got another one from Griff One Nun for $10. Thank you very much. I'm pretty new to objectivism, so this is a lot of knowledge for me. But initial thoughts, it seems like the closed objectivists have an idea that makes it unable to perfect itself. Yeah, the closed objectivists, I call them zombie objectivists sometimes, because it's a dying, like, ambling philosophy that'll never progress, and also they're worshipping the beliefs of a dead woman. And it's this cancer which spreads and eats people's minds as well. So it's a zombie in every respect. Yeah, it's really terrible. I am fully convinced that if not for people like me, objectivism dies out. There's just so little innovation in I mean, have you seen it? There's very few people who are actually innovating when it comes to the objectivist movement. And quite often they're just scorned completely. Like, no, get out of here. Like, this is terrible stuff. And that's why we end up with, try find an objectivist show on YouTube, which isn't just 500 episodes of here's why Israel has the right to nuke Iran. Try find a show which isn't that. It's impossible. Yeah, then there's E. Evans, 0052, who has become a member for 5 months now. Thank you very much. That's a lot of money. Yes, the essence of objectivism is derived from the sum total of Randian canon. 1 out of X. Unfortunately, I cannot, because it was quite a while ago, I'm not able to read the full thread, but thank you very much for the donation there. Or this is a 2 of X. So yeah, however, if one can identify an inconsistency in that canon, surely it is proper and just to identify that inconsistency and rectify it. Hence, Zulu does not simply call himself an objectivist, he calls himself an anarcho-objectivist, to delineate his differentiation from objectivism. Yeah, I mean, when it's relevant, I'll say, yeah, I'm an anarchist and an objectivist. I don't normally go around saying I'm an anarcho-objectivist. I don't really just say I'm an objectivist because I believe it's a correct belief in objectivism. Where the bollocks do I have my Discord open? Alright, over here. Too loud. For some reason they got rid of streamer mode on Discord. I can't find it anymore. So, I've got to close Discord whenever I do these things now, I guess. Yeah, thank you very much for the money. Then we got Panel Boutique for another 5 Canadian dollars. Thank you very much. Fire is the technology of ex-caveman. Yeah, that's what fire means. Then we got a $1 donation from Nicholas Post N4L. Thank you very much. Then another one from Griff One Nun for $5. Thank you very much. Anarcho-objectivism seems more consistent to me and more coherent than the closed objectivist approach. Yeah, and indeed it is. It is just way more consistent. It's the correct way to do it. Murray Rothbard and Ayn Rand, they might have hated each other as people towards the end there, but their philosophies, they go together like cheese and wine, honestly. It's so awesome. They were made to be together. Apologies whilst I just drink some water here. You know, whenever I do these streams, my mouth dries. I just have all like the air bubbling up from me, so I gotta burp. It's terrible. I just have to use all my muscles for speaking for like hours on end. This is why I hate recording videos, by the way. The AI art video, you know how long that recording was? 6 hours long in one session. Oh boy, that was That was a terror of a session. Just all sort of like, you know, mucus was coming out. I was like clearing everything out. It was dreadful. Yeah. Apologies for describing my mucus there. And then Huge Hat Harold for $10. Thank you very much. No message attached. And then Panoptique for $2 Canadian. Imagine Dave Smith in this debate. Indeed, yeah. Like, this is what I always say. Just point to like some debate. Imagine Dave Smith doing that debate. Just imagine Dave Smith in that debate. It's not going to fly. It's not going to fly. And then Griff won none for $2. Thank you very much. I feel like Liam would be a good Marxist. Well, I'm not gonna accuse him of being a Marxist or anything. He's a smart guy. He's funny. I like him. But yeah, no, yeah, sure. Thank you very much. And then another from Griff won none for $20. Thank you very much. That's a lot of money. Like I said, I am very new to Objectivism, but honestly, I feel like I wouldn't be able to learn much from Liam and the closed Objectivists. It doesn't feel like I would be comfortable asking questions, so I'll stick with you. Yeah, and indeed, I've experienced this when I was first learning Objectivism. I went to this Discord server. I believe it's the Objectivist Lyceum or some bullshit. And like, they brought me into this fucking, like, struggle session. It's like, what is your belief on this? What do you say about this? And I was just like, no, I'm not engaging with your fucking struggle session. Because they were like, I went there to like post some debate I had. I was like, look, I was defending the Objectivist position here, and they're, no, you're not. And then they brought me into this little struggle session off into my own little channel. Like, what is your position on this? What is your position on that? No, I actually don't have to engage with you. Not doing your struggle session. Goodbye. Yeah, that's how they act. There's a reason why Murray Rothbard wrote Mozart is a Red. There's a very good reason for it. It's because that's how they act. I should probably watch Mozart as a Red after this. Still got time. After I get through these super chats, I'll do a showing of Mozart is a Red to show you like the cultish attitude some of these people get into. And then we got another from Griff One None for $2. Thank you very much. Anyway, Zalazulu, take my money. Good stuff. Well, thank you. And then Handu Candle 1, aka Man Sharma, who is now a member for 15 months, guys. That's a long ass time. Thank you very much. Will you do the post-debate Discord discussion? I got some things to say which might be important. Yeah, I could do that. And then another from Panoptique for $10 Canadian. Thank you very much. No, Zulu, take my money. Well, I'll take everybody's money. Don't worry, ladies. I'll take everybody's money. Don't you worry about it. Pardon me. And then Griff One None for $5 US. Thank you very much. Did you or do you still plan to do the debate course? I'll purchase if so. Yes, I've got the basic outline of what I want to have in that course. It's just, you know, finding the time to do it. I think I'm not sure I'm super comfortable yet, because I think I need to still round out my ideas on pathos. I'm very good on the logos already. I already know that back to front. But I want to round out my ideas on pathos. Yeah. Yeah, let's do a quick showing of Mozart as a Red, and then I'll go take a piss and join the Discord. So yeah, this is a play that Murray Rothbard wrote based on his experiences in Ayn Rand's collective. That's what they called it, like, affectionately.
Keith Hackley, Jonathan, Greta, and Carson Sand.
Well, Mr. Hackley, I'm so glad you could come.
Thank you. It was really
Actually, I think the actor for Nathaniel Brandon here. This is Murray Rothbard. This is supposed to be Ayn Rand. I think the actor for Nathaniel Brandon in this is what's his goddamn name? The guy with the round glasses. He's like still in the libertarian movement. This is like one of the earliest videos you can get of him.
Very nice of you to invite me.
Oopsie-daisies.
How could I not ask you to come after sending me such a splendid letter about my novel?
Oh, it was really nothing.
Oh?
Mr. Hackley,
I
did
mean-
you say one of the finest novels?
Yes, Jeffrey Tucker. Also, why the hell am I still getting Discord notifications? The Scrimbly. Applications, is Discord open? It is. Good application. Okay, so I shouldn't get any more Discord notifications. Apologies. But yeah, this is yeah, I think it speaks for itself for the most part.
Yes, why, your novel, Miss, and the Brow of Zeus was really one of the finest novels I've read in years.
Keith Hackley, would you care to name even...
Yeah, Jeffrey Tucker right here. Also, sorry, I've got to pause. I don't want to get bloody copyright struck by whoever this person is. Not accusing them that they will do that. Also, they clearly don't have copyright on this. But, you know, things happen. I've got to review this play here. Yeah, this is this guy, Jeffrey Tucker. The resemblance. It's uncanny. You see it.
one novel that... Keith Hackley, would you care to name even one novel that you've ever read that even compares to The Brow of Zeus?
Well,
If there's one thing we cannot tolerate around here, Mr. Hackley, it's imprecision of language. Now, you said one of the finest novels. What were the others?
Who's Peikoff here? I don't believe Peikoff is included in this scene, because Peikoff was quite a bit younger than Ayn Rand. I don't know if he was involved in like the collective at this point. This is Nathaniel Brandon, this is his wife Barbara Brandon, it's Murray Rothbard, and then on the right you've got Ayn Rand's husband, I can't remember his name at the moment, and then Ayn Rand. I think those are the characters.
One thing we cannot tolerate around here, Mr. Hackley, is imprecision of language. Now, you said one of the finest novels. What were the others?
Hemingway was rather...
Hemingway! Good God!
And you can see, like, this is, if you've interacted with the Objectivist movement, at least before I came along, you'll know, like, this is how they behave, or behaved at the very least. Like, Frank O'Connor, that's it. Yeah, that's her husband. Like, this is how they would behave. In fact, like, Adrian Shepard of the Springtime of Nations channel, he told me, before I came along, whenever anybody would say, oh, I'm an objectivist, you would just go, oh, okay, so you're a war hawk. You just assume, okay, like, that's what you mean, you're a war hawk. Like, I am actually changing the perception of objectivism. This, if you want to understand the perception of objectivism prior to me, watch this play. Been done many times. Watch this play. You'll understand what people thought when you said objectivist. It's exactly this.
Of course, you understand when we say the word God, we do not apply agreement with the term. We're merely using it as a strong idiomatic metaphor.
Oh, Keith, can't you see Hemingway's death premises in every line that man writes?
That premises? Well, you know, the struggle with the moment, the bull of...
Hemingway is anti-life, anti-reason, anti-reality.
Jonathan, Greta, come. We should give Mr. Hackley a chance. He is a lover of the Brow of Zeus, and that's a big plus.
Yes, you're right, Carson.
Of course, Carson.
Mr. Hagley? Keith, would you like a cigarette? This is a particularly rational brand.
Rational? Why, no, thank you. I don't smoke, thank you.
You don't smoke? Why not?
Well, because I don't like to.
You don't like to? You permit your mere subjective whims, your feelings to stand in the way of reality and reason?
And this is, again, this is a thing that sometimes will be done. They'll take some personal opinion of Ayn Rand. There's a whole article about it. By Craig Biddle, in fact. Again, I'm not accusing all closed objectivists of being like this, but this is the kind of attitude that it lends itself towards. Yeah, Craig Biddle, he has this article. Ayn Rand said is not an argument over this sort of person, where it's like Ayn Rand believed that Mozart made bad music, therefore you cannot like Mozart. Ayn Rand said that a woman should never be president, therefore you can't. It's part of objectivism. You cannot, you know. People believe this. This is what the closed objectivist idea, it lends itself towards this kind of activity. It's not good. Superboy Boys, I regret to inform you Beyond All Reason is an anti-life, anti-reason game, and you're not allowed to play it anymore. Unfortunately, no longer allowed to play real-time strategy game Beyond All Reason. It's unreasonable. It's clearly it's anti-reason.
But surely, Miss Sand, what possible reason could there be other than liking it?
Oh, come on. Mrs. Sand never does anything out of her subjective feelings. Only out of reason, which means the objective nature of reality. You have grossly insulted this great woman and abused her courtesy and her hospitality.
What possible grounds could there be?
Why are you evading the self-evident? Smoking is a symbol of the fire in the mind, the fire of ideas. He who refuses to smoke, therefore, is an enemy of the mind and of ideas.
To be clear, he is parodying a line from Atlas Shrugged, or like a paragraph from Atlas Shrugged, where, can't remember the character, they were going on and on about like the philosophy of a cigarette, like symbolizes the fire in one's mind. But you know, I love Atlas Shrugged. I mean, come on, guys, we could have fun here. We can have a little bit of fun. We don't need to be stuck up and never laugh at anything.
Symbol? Like, then it seems like a match would be even more of a symbol.
Oh, come on. How dare you mock Carson Sam in this hooligan manner? You wouldn't mock God.
Wait, Jonathan. Let us wait before passing final judgment. Keith?
Of course, Carson.
Are you a rationalist?
Well, that's a very difficult question. You see, I think that...
Come. Do you hold reason as your absolute?
Well, that depends on how you define rationalism. You see,
A rationalist is a man who lives exclusively by his reason, which means by the objective nature of reality to think, which means by a man's own power to think, which...
To be clear, that's not what rationalist would mean in Ayn Rand's viewpoint. You would consider a rationalist somebody who's like completely divorced from reality.
means, of course, by a man's own power to grasp reality, which means...
Well done, comrade. Mr. Hackley, we're being very patient with you. We extend every courtesy, every leeway to a lover of the brow of Zeus. Let me put it another way. Are you a mystic?
a mystic? I don't believe in any of this Zen Buddhist business.
Oh, really, Keith? I'm trying to have a serious conversation with you.
But yes, but you see, I
Please, give me the courtesy of allowing me to complete a thought, a single thought.
Well, I'm sorry.
Surely you must realize I'm not talking about the twisted, leprous Asiatic bum sitting somewhere on a diaper. That's only the most blatant, the most obvious kind of mystic.
Yeah, I know, Los Angeles is full of queers.
Mr. Hackley, why do you continue to evade her frank and forthright questions? We both know you're running like hell.
Now look here, I don't know what you're talking about.
Keith, to put it simply, a mystic is someone who allows nothing to come, allows everything to come between his reason and his reality, who places something above his values. Do you see?
Are you religious, Keith?
Oh, am I religious? I see. Well, not really, you know. I would attend church maybe twice a year, Christmas and Easter, you know, that sort of thing.
Only twice a year, he says. You know where that comes from.
Well, of course. There's a passage on page 236, paragraph 2 of the Brow of Zeus, which explains this syndrome perfectly.
Yes. And he allows his mere subjective whims and to come between.
The subjective feelings? Yeah, I know.
See, I like that. A little moment of like, she forgot her lines. That's the way you should play it off, I think. Again, I'm reviewing this play. YouTube and the courts if it gets here. I'm reviewing this play. You can see me reviewing this play. Okay. Superboy Boys did say, for as much as closed objectivists say they love life, they seem to behave like space marines in their canteen devotion to the tenets of God Empress Ayn Rand, peace be upon her. Yeah, it's sickening. Eddie Willer should have been the main character. Alice. Oh. Oh. The development, I completely disagree with you there.
Objectivist, no question. Of course.
Well, look, I didn't know you people felt so bitterly about religion.
Keith, our feelings do not count here. Reason tells us that religion is evil.
Religion is evil, which means anti-life, which means anti-mind, which means anti-reason, which means anti-reality.
Well done, comrade.
Well, look, I told you I don't take religion that seriously.
My God, we are talking about life and death matters here. Doesn't he realize? Oh.
Mr. Hackley, don't you take anything seriously?
Keith, how could you? Mr. Hackley, perhaps we can approach this from a different level, through aesthetics. What composers do you like, for example?
Oh, well, I like the standard, you know, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart.
Oh. Your taste reveals your premises, your musical premises. Keith, how could you? I, who know the depth of depravity to which most men sink, even I have to ask myself, how can they? Beethoven, Mozart, who reek of naturalism, whose work tramples on values, whose every note displays the malevolent universe premise.
Malevolent?
Oh, Keith, can't you see the hatred of life in every note, every bar of music?
Now, Keith Hackley, you said that you like the Brow of Zeus because you oppose collectivism and totalitarianism.
Oh, yes, exactly. You see,
well, now, how in the name of reason can you appreciate Mozart?
How in the name of reason is good.
who, on the malevolent universe premise, he's on the same premise as the collectivists that you claim to despise. You see, they are all part of the anti-life, anti-mind enemy.
Are you saying that Mozart was a collectivist?
Oh, not on that very primitive kind of way. But the system of premises interconnect on a deeper and therefore on a more important level. Do you see?
Keith, we'd like to ask a question of every new person we meet. Who in the Brow of Zeus did you find the most important character?
Oh, well, I liked Joey Fontana.
Joey
Fontana! Yes, why?
I believe that's the Eddie Willers stand-in.
Why, Keith? Why Joey Fontana?
Well, he seemed to be on the side of the good. Freedom and a bright, good-natured fellow and...
Oh.
Joey Fontana, the very image of the nice, third-rate common man. And you choose him over a hero like Kyle Crane or Sebastian Del Rey.
Sebastian Del Rey, of course, being Francisco d'Anconia.
Well, they were okay. They just seemed a bit wooden and one-dimensional.
Keith Hackley, you have had the rare privilege of spending an evening with the greatest minds you should ever hope to meet. Carson Sand, Greta Lansdowne, and, of course, myself. And how have you treated this privilege? Above all, how have you treated Carson Sand? I have sat right here while you have committed a unforgivable sins against Carson Sand. You have continually interrupted her in the middle of sentences, hardly allowing her a chance to speak. You've evaded every question which Carson or I have put to you. You continually...
Did they give him, like, tap shoes for this? He's, like, tapping across the stage.
To kowtow to us and the mystics, to us and Mozart, to us and all the depravities of our society, you criticize instead of asking questions. You mock like a hooligan instead of showing the proper sort of reverence. And to whom, Keith Hackley? To this woman. To this woman, Carson Sand, who's brought to the world the knowledge that A is A. And that 2 plus 2 equal 4. Finally, Keith Hackley, you have capped your crimes by saying that your favorite character was Joey Fontana, the perfect image of the mediocre, the nice guy, the second-hand. Keith Hackley, you have damned yourself forevermore. Yes, Keith Hackley. Yes, you've made your choice, and you've only left me one alternative. I must ask that you leave this house, never to return again.
You forgot that Downey gave up the railroad because you hated that whole plot line. That's like the whole book. That's like the whole book, man. Like, what are you talking about?
Forgive me, Mr. Kelly, but you seem like a very nice fellow. How can you stand all this?
Oh, you get used to it after a while.
It's a living.
This goes on almost every evening. You learn to forget a lot. Sit on the couch, say yes every now and then. Oh hell, it's a living.
See, there you go. It's a living. There you go. Okay, so let me open up a. I'm gonna go into the Discord now. Let me throw a little bit of a. Oh, too loud, too loud. Verb. That. Yeah, mods, make sure to fortuitously ban anybody who's trying to cause a ruckus. Whilst I'm in the VC here. Hello. I'm gonna go take a piss, so man, make sure everything's orderly until I come back.
Okay.
Get the link. Invite to server. Thereafter, I don't know. One day. Alright, new link. Okay.
Zal Zulu, Lyle Liam.
ZZ.
I sent a super chat. I don't think Zulu read it. It was really funny too, which is it's quite upsetting. Never gonna send him money again.
You can tell him when he comes back.
Well, now that I'm on the stream, I can just read it myself. You know, I'm not gonna secondhand it. You know. But it was just, you know, Los Angeles is full of queers, and I said, you know, Los Angeles is full of Proudhon and his queers.
Yeah, I saw that one. That was good. Yep. So yeah, we were and Guy were talking in chat about Atlas Shrugged, right? So my favorite character there is Riordan, man. Riordan was the best. He had the best arc. What do you think?
I don't me? I didn't ever say anything about Atlas Shrugged.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I'm illiterate.
Sorry, what was that?
No, I said unfortunately I'm illiterate. I don't read books.
Yeah. try meeting an objectivist who's actually read an objectivist book. I've actually only read The Fountainhead. That's my confession. Well, in terms of her novels, I read Opah and Ito.
You got to read Atlas, man. It's pretty good. Like Fountainhead is.
Atlas is amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is, I'm halfway through the three body problem, and the problem with that is I've been halfway through the three body problem for like a month or something because I got bored of reading it.
I haven't read.
Like the first book was pretty good, and then for some reason we ended up on this tangent in the perspective of like this author who's like a misanthrope, and I'm like, I really don't care.
By the way,
so maybe I should just switch to reading Atlas Shrugged.
on Three Body Problem, I did finally watch the show, the Netflix show.
I have not watched the Netflix show. I only saw like the intro, like in the Cultural Revolution. Like, oh, I got to read the book now. Cause my dad has the book like sitting on the coffee table, and I just picked it up. I'm like, well, I guess I'd read it.
The show is pretty good. It's pretty good. I like the setting. It's very because I mean. Spoilers. I'm not going to get... They're not huge spoilers. I'm just going to say like a broad level thing I like about it. I like that they give like a genuine motivation for what the big bad aliens are doing. and why they would be concerned and frightened of humans. I always love that in sci-fi, why an alien species would be frightened of humans. If you want to understand why they would be frightened of humans, go watch the show. Go watch the show.
It's a
or read the book.
The writing, like this, the scenario design, I guess I'd say, in Three Body Problem is well done. Like the world building, and I don't know about the show. I know the book is almost entirely set in China, and it's from like the perspective of a Chinese character.
I see.
So like,
the show has a lot of, I did hear about that because it's by a Chinese author, but a lot of the show, they replace a lot of the stuff with stuff in the UK.
The United,
yeah,
the People's Republic of Britain.
Well, so it kind of like goes back and forth between like flashbacks in China and the Cultural Revolution into like modern day. There's all these like suicides in the UK and stuff.
That's so.
I have to wonder that, because like the thing is, the Cultural Revolution plot element is extremely relevant to the motivation of the human like faction on Earth, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the main characters, right? Although the fact that there are suicides in other countries in the book is also relevant. Like it's not the whole book is set in China. It's just like it's about Chinese characters for the most part.
Yeah. I haven't read the books or anything. But the show was very good. I liked it. And apparently they're releasing the second season at some point this year, so I got into it at exactly the right time.
Yeah, maybe I ought to watch the show, and then that'll like motivate me to start finishing the book again, because like I'm in the middle of the second book, or actually close to the beginning of the second book, and they introduced this character as like a perspective character who he just seems completely irrelevant, and he's really like, it's terrible to be inside this guy's head, because he's like a misanthrope, and not even in like a funny way. He's just kind of like it's not a spoiler. He's like simping for an imaginary girl he wrote, right? Instead of like going out to have he has an actual girlfriend, and then he like writes this imaginary girl and falls in love with her and just like leaves his girlfriend. It's like, it's horrible. It's so awful. And it has nothing to do with the aliens. I'm like, what? Why do I care? So I just kind of stopped reading at that point. I gotta go back and like get through that so I can learn about what the fucking the aliens are doing.
Yep. By the way, Sue, can you mute your mic? Because I'm getting some like noise from your mic. Thank you.
Yep. And have any of you seen the new Ryan Gosling movie? I forget its name. The
Project
Alien
Hail
one.
Mary? Oh my god! I read the book.
I have.
I read the book for Project Hail Mary, like when it came out, and I really like Andy Weir's writing. He has lots of work on in terms of like character writing, but there's something about Andy Weir in the sense that his fiction work always depicts. It has a sense of life to it, you could say, which is very.
Is he the one who did The Martian?
Yeah, he did The Martian. That was his first one, right? Because that just started as like a web serial he was writing in his free time, because he was working as a programmer, and he's a fucking hard sci-fi nerd. So he just wrote The Martian, and then that got really big, and then he was like, okay, I'm gonna write my next book, which was Artemis, which I mean, not really. It's not great. The thing is, he tried. He was way more ambitious in terms of like character writing, and he's just too autistic to like actually understand how other people behave. This is something you can notice in The Martian, where there's Mark Watney, who is Andy Weir if he was like an astronaut and a smarter person, right? And then all of the characters in like the side cutaway scenes to like NASA or like the crew on the spacecraft is like Andy Weir, except if he was, a woman
or black
commander. Like the problem, he has this extreme difficulty, or it seems to be that he has this extreme difficulty writing people who aren't like aspects of his own personality, and that's unfortunate. It's like it's his weakest point in writing, especially because like people have pointed out the Reddit dialogue, and I don't think it's that much of a problem, but like there's like there's a sense in which he's very much in tune with the nerd pop culture elements, right?
I will.
Anyway, Project Hail Mary.
I do want to
good
say
book,
one thing
great
on The
movie.
Martian. I haven't actually read it, but I did see one snippet from The Martian, which indicates that we're actually ahead of schedule, because we had, at the time when it was describing like the number of space launches in this year was this not much, we're actually ahead of schedule on that because of SpaceX. So we're going to get a Mark Watney of our own soon enough. Don't worry, gentlemen.
Well, hopefully we don't get like him just stranded on Mars, but
yeah, hopefully
we won't get the Mark Watney stranded there.
But it would be fun.
No, we're going to deliberately
raise
strand
this.
him on Mars just as a science experiment. We're going to see if he can make it.
We got to recreate The Martian, guys. But anyway, yeah, go back to the Project Hail Mary you're about to say.
See, I mean, Project Hail Mary, because he struggled with character writing Anonymous, and it was like, it showed up in the reviews. When he wrote Project Hail Mary, he kind of took a step back and he was like, okay, I'm going to go back to like my original formula with The Martian, right? Where there's like basically one main character who's most of the perspective, and he's basically Andy Weir if he was in space, right? But then there's also there's like the secondary character of Rocky, who, who, in a way, like, I think Rocky is a very successful first step in writing a character who isn't just Andy Weir. I mean, obviously, Rocky is very much like Andy Weir if he was an alien, right? But also, there's something interesting where he kind of managed to get in character a bit. I don't know. Do you know what And I'm really hoping Andy Weir just kind of keeps writing books and like that he improves. To make this actually related to objectivism a little bit, I want to say all of Andy Weir's books, they have this completely different quality to like most of other science fiction that you can find, in that they are very much a rejection of a malevolent universe premise, right? They're very much like, actually, if a man got stranded on Mars and the US like resupply launch exploded, the Chinese will probably help us, right? They're not, and like we as human beings are able to actually go and rescue this man from Mars, and he can survive on Mars by using his mind, applying his reason to reality, you could say, to take stock of the resources available to him to extend his survival duration so he can survive until a rescue mission is sent to bring him back, right? That's that's like, I don't, Andy Weir is not explicitly like an objectivist. He's not like a, he doesn't have like, he's basically like I just want to grill boomer if he was a nerd, like, actually Gen Xer, right? And so because of that, he's managed to avoid like imbibing this I hate humanity worldview that so many science fiction authors seem to have. And that way, like all of his books have this very like strong sense of life to them where like, human beings are able to achieve their ends in reality. They're able to achieve their goals, and they're able to aspire towards good things, right? Like Artemis, there's a city on the moon, right? And like, sure, it's a story about like criminal effects, like criminal behavior on the moon, but like there's even the criminal behavior on the moon is like somehow like it's not meant to be the destruction of human life. There's a sort of like vulgar selfishness to it, in that like one of the characters, she's like, I want to get a little bit richer than I and not through honest work, but like there's a sort of admirable quality to it in how like there's a heist type plan, and like there's ingenuity and industriousness to it all, right? And it lets you see like the virtues of humanity. And I think we need more of that. And that's why I want to be a science fiction author.
Project Hail Mary also has a benevolent story, because like two different species come together. Like he comes across an alien, and instead of like trying to destroy and invade each other, they're like, it's like with the power of friendship and love, they're solving the problem instead of like them trying to destroy each other.
Yeah, like so many
that's what I like about it so much.
So many sci-fi stories are like, oh yeah, when humanity meets the aliens, we're inevitably going to enter into a conflict, right? We're inevitably going to start shooting each other. It's going to be the first thing that happens to us, right? Meanwhile, Andy Weir in Project Hail Mary is like, okay, supposing that, you know, two civilizations developed the same sort of civilization-threatening problem, and then also came together to sync the capital development necessary to send interstellar spacecraft on a research mission. What is the likelihood that they're just going to start trying to kill each other the moment they see each other? Like,
It's
zero.
Anthem. It's
Exactly.
Anthem. Anthem, Ayn Rand's
It is.
Ayn Rand's dystopian novel. She correctly recognizes that, well, if for a society to be highly developed, it couldn't be dystopian. Insofar as a society is dystopian in that way, well, it would necessarily regress. It destroys production. It would regress into caveman shit.
Yep. And we can see that, you know, in our own timeline with the US and the Soviets. Go to Russia now, go to the US now. You can pretty much see which society progressed and regressed, you know. Another thing that I really liked about that movie was that there were two things. The first one was, which, you know, like, it is not the first time that humans and aliens come in contact, or we are just going to have war. Like, that's what is very common in the cultural zeitgeist, where, like, this was, okay, like, let's learn how to communicate, and there's this common problem to solve. Let's learn how to solve that problem. It was very pro-life, pro-reason affirming, and of course, then they form a friendship, and it's all, you know, very
We're
wholesome.
spoiling the movie to everyone who hasn't watched it.
Well, like, I don't think that's.
It's very top level. I haven't seen the movie, and I don't feel spoiled at the moment.
We can't hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like there was like something missing there, you know, like trying to like how are you supposed to, you know, like highlight, you know, like, you know how Iran, like she highlights, you know, virtuous traits, right? With
Oh,
like,
yeah,
a foil like Peter Keating, right? It didn't seem like there was much of a foil in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, like, and not in the book either. And so, like, Andy Weir, like I said, it's one of his weaknesses is character writing. In some sense, in the book.
Oh, I just gotta call out this super chat. 5,000 ARS. Apologies, I don't know what ARS is, but it's a red super chat, so it must be a lot. If I pop this out. Apologies for people on the Discord. You won't be heard for this part. Pop out chat. Yeah, from a Quasi Dexter, 5,000 of something. I'm assuming it's a lot of money. It's a red super chat. I rarely see red super chats. Thank you very much, man. I very much appreciate it. I will read any missed super chats at the end, but I felt I had to call that out. What is ARS? Let's see. Argentine peso. Oh, it's £2.46. I assume. My apologies. Yeah, no. Oh well. Thank you for the money anyway. I don't know why it's showing up as red. Red normally is like $100 and up. Thank you for the money anyway. I didn't mean to like put you on blast or anything. It's very much appreciated. But yeah, let's get back to the call. Whoops, my mistake.
Of character writing and like playing characters off of each other is one of his weaknesses.
Exactly, and you know, like, a far better development would have been that he comes to realize that even though he's not brave enough, like, the only time one can be brave is when one is afraid, right? Like, that's what bravery is. So, like, the character realizes that, no, I want to go because I value humanity and I want to save it, instead of just being, you know, forced and put in a coma and put in a ship. You know, like, I didn't like that part of it. Like, it very much felt like, you know, like the penny problem all over again, and the author is like,
yeah, that seems like a good point to highlight with the foil. You know, that bravery is not, you know, the absence of fear, right?
But that's the whole plot, though, right? He was scared and he was kidnapped and forced to save humanity. And he is a cowardly person. Like, he is scared. I don't know if I should use the word coward. He is not as brave. But his interaction with Rocky and his decision, oh my god, I'm just spoiling the whole fucking movie. His interaction with...
Just send it.
I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. The way
in a lot of those
you know,
interactions.
the way how he like came back for Rocky and like his planet is like it was the ending, the final of his character. That was his character development because that was the first thing he decided to do as like being brave. Like that was his character development. Like we first see this guy, and Stratton does make a good point. It's like, listen, like if you don't want to sacrifice yourself, you're gonna die anyways. So it's like we have two choices. First choice, everyone is going to die on the planet. Second choice, you go there, you save us, but you're gonna die. But like regardless of two choices, you're going to die. So it's like make your choice. He's like scared, so he doesn't go. He's like, I'm gonna die anyway, so I'm gonna stay on Earth. And the point of his character development throughout the whole movie is that he actually like gradually becomes a more brave person and decides to save like Rocky, despite of like, which I personally wouldn't do. It is a little bit anti-objectivist. Like he's like sacrificing himself for the alien and risking Earth to a level. But but like that's the whole point of the plot. That's the whole point of the plot. Like the gradual improvement of his character to becoming a brave person.
Oh, you read
and
the
of course,
book, right, Chronic?
I can
I did read
counter
the book,
that
yes.
in the sense that, like his values, like from his perspective, the Earth people, they forced him to go on the suicide mission. They violated his wishes. They, in effect, left him to die, and he has no friends on Earth. He has no lover to go back to. He has nothing on Earth. Versus Rocky was friend he has been spending all of this time with, right?
Right.
So like, and of course, like Rocky is going somewhere, so he knows there is life out there,
Yeah.
So like,
And
I
I do
wanted to
want
ask
to
Chronic a question about the book. Though.
go ahead, G.
Yeah. I don't know, like with a lot of these kind of like sci-fi movies, I feel like a lot of like it felt like a lot of the interactions, right? I mean, a lot of the plot elements and everything felt really, really, really forced. You know what I mean?
In Project Hail Mary.
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of the interactions, there was a lot of forced elements. It felt like it just like didn't feel like
what do you
it
mean
was like
specifically?
integrated well,
Yeah.
Like just
do you have
like
like an example?
weird, like cringy, like I don't even remember.
Oh yeah, it's like cringy, like moments of humor or like things that just seem like unrealistic.
Like
I agree. So like that's a weakness of a weakness of Andy Weir's character writing in that he struggles. I think he struggles to write characters who are appropriately serious for their station. Like, and he can get away with Ryland Grace because Ryland Grace is a high school teacher who's been press ganged into astronaut service, right? But like Rocky, for some reason, despite being like an alien from another planet with a completely different biology, has a very similar sense of humor to Ryland Grace. It's a little strange, don't you think? Right?
Like instead of trying to do that, you can sort of bring in the humor with just like them not being able to communicate or relate so well. Like there's lots of ways to do that.
Well, I agree. I think Andy Weir just hasn't developed that skill as a writer, or maybe he's working on it, right? Because it's been a few years since he published, and he's working on something else. But it's been one of his weaknesses ever since like The Martian, right? Like and I think he knows it. I don't know if he's ever like spoken about this in interviews. I honestly
I think there was some of it.
Yeah.
Like there was some of it in that interaction, like where they couldn't relate to each other, and that's where like
that was
like there was genuine humor in that, But
that's what that's kind of what I said. Like him writing Rocky has been like one of his best developments in his writing, like in terms of characters, right? Because he managed to write a character who was in effect alien to himself, not just in a literal sense, but also like in a personality sense. Like this is not just Andy Weir, but with some modification.
Andy Weir, but a rock colony or whatever.
Andy Weir, but a rock colony. Yeah, no, like, but obviously he needs to work on it. Like,
it seemed like Rocky's character was a bit like smoothed over, like a lot of alien characters are like, like instead of like their own like
lack of
character,
imagination. Like you could do so much with an alien,
representative or something, of some like abstract concept.
Also, I wanted to say something about the debate briefly. which was that like the identification of objectivism as a particular that a lot of closed camp people do. I find a little bit of problem there because see, like English words have meaning, right? Like so, objectivism. It's not a name. Like we don't end names with isms, right? Like I'm not manism. I am man, right? Like you can't name like ism means a set of ideas. It means a set of it means a philosophy, right? Like so, and ist like the if you end something with an ist, you're describing a person who holds that philosophy. And so I don't think this is the right way to do it. Like, did Ayn Rand want to do it this way? Right. But is it right to do this? I disagree with that.
To your
and then
point.
we go back
To your point, like ism. So like objectivism is identifying like a species of thought, right? A species of philosophy. Or like, and as opposed to the name, like he gave this example of like his own name, like Liam. I'm using Liam to describe the abstract category of Liams, right? As opposed to like the problem with that is when we say Liam Staten, right, and we're pointing at him, we're identifying a particular concrete object in the physical universe, right? We're pointing at a thing, right? It has a particular location. There's only one of it, right?
That's what the concept refers to, though.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like this is
Whereas
why you can't
objectivism,
name
right, is referring to something that is abstracted,
Right.
right? It's an abstraction that has and the question is like the question is not like it's not a particular thing we're pointing at. It's a set of things that is visible. It's a type of philosophy, right? It's not a specific singular like text somewhere, right?
Exactly. And the other thing is that the point that Ayn Rand wanted to do this, and the reason she wanted to do this was so that she is not mischaracterized. Well, the thing is, we don't need much. We don't need a word to have that. Like everybody knows. Like everybody knows who wrote those books and which books she wrote and which speeches she gave and which essays she wrote. Right? Like there will never be a confusion about what Ayn Rand thought. Right? Like that's not going to be a problem. The problem is that when you can't particularize and name something in ism. Like that is something like it represents a school of thought. That's what the word ism represents, right? Libertarianism, communism, and like stuff like that, right?
Well,
you can't ismize a particular.
I mean,
and you
this is what I was getting at. And sorry, G, you can continue after.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is what I was getting at, where I was saying that nobody actually believes when they watch any of my content that I'm attributing these contributions to Ayn Rand. Nobody believes this. But for the closed objectivist position to make any sense, you would have to hold that as true. You would have to believe that when I'm making claims that every claim that I make, because I'm an objectivist, you would have to believe that, well, Ayn Rand must have believed that. That, when Harry Binswanger, when he gives his theory of mathematics, well, Ayn Rand must have believed that theory of mathematics. Unless he, like, explicitly, every other sentence he demarcates, this is my beliefs, blah, blah, blah. Like, nobody actually believes that.
And that's so stupid.
They do tend to do that.
It's so stupid. It's like like anybody who innovates in that particular, group of people, the moment they innovate, they have to like first do an apologia, which is that this is my thing, this is not Ayn Rand's thing. I'm not claiming it is Ayn Rand's
thing. It's a land acknowledgement.
Why do we need to do this?
I acknowledge that this land is the Ukwak tribe.
And the Ayn Rand people.
Yeah, I mean, but that also goes completely against, Divinity's Liam's point he was trying to make, like that it would sort of disrupt the continuity, like in the history of thought or whatever. But what disrupts the continuity, like there's no intellectual continuity when every single time an objectivist has this, like when they're innovating on what Ayn Rand said, or like just like applying the principles of objectivism, right? They have to apologize first. They have to apologize.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks very strange. It looks very like I'm just viewing it. Anybody outsider viewing it looks very strange.
With that.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to say like one last thing because I'm about to hop off, but Zulu, you really got Liam with the if Rand converted to Christianity on her deathbed, is that objectivism argument? Because like the thing he said after that, in effect, was like, no, we can separate the essence of objectivism from Ayn Rand's specific beliefs to identify, because, and that's literally your argument. So like, that's just that was like an immediate concession, right? It's like
okay.
So
I think there's a confusion going on in here because nobody makes the argument that if you disagree, I don't know if Binswanger does, if he does, he's wrong. But nobody disagrees here that if you disagree with Rand on the theory of mathematics, you cannot be an objectivist. The argument is more surrounded. She is an integrated system, which is metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, politics, and aesthetics. And if you have to accept
philosophy.
You have to. No, I'm not saying that, but let me finish. You have to accept this core integration of her philosophy. Call yourself an objectivist because objectivism is the integration of that philosophy. Like, no one is saying if you disagree on the theory of mathematics, you cannot be an objectivism. Like, I don't think Liam makes that argument as well.
See, and this is what I would counter that with. No. I would counter that with.
Gee, you're making like random comments. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Binswanger would be wrong if he disagreed with her on mathematics. But do you think she was a mathematician?
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. Gee, can you please not say random things, please?
Okay.
No need to fight, guys. No. Like, I think she said that.
Yeah, you were wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm wrong, I apologize.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So, my counter to that would be, is that true enough, Ayn Rand person had this particular system. Nobody disputes that. We all know that. And like anybody going forward, no matter which approach, the open or closed, we take, everybody can read Ayn Rand's books and refer to Ayn Rand particularly. The problem is that if you make that objectivism, like the way the word ism is used, the way the word, whenever we ismize something, for lack of a better word here, we're referring not to a particular, but to a tradition. Like that would be my argument here. Because, like, and that's every other ism. So why are we treating this ism? Like, then the word that she should have chosen for her philosophy should not have ended in an ism, if you know what I mean.
And that's,
it could have been the objective philosophy or something.
And that's the problem I had with this idea of, well, Ayn Rand, it's different because she said that this is what her philosophy is. It's like, actually, Ayn Rand doesn't get to dictate the history of philosophy, how historians of philosophy are supposed to treat terms.
Yeah.
She doesn't get to dictate that. She also doesn't get to dictate what the English language is. She doesn't get to dictate these things.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? We're not prescriptivists.
English. The point here is English, not anything else. Like the way we would use ism in English.
Yeah, but
history is very, very good point, because I mean just look at how much like K.R. Rothbard puts into like explaining what the proper method of a historian is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but she gets to differentiate what differentiates her views from others.
No, she doesn't even get to differentiate. She doesn't even get to dictate that, because she might be wrong in that. She could be wrong about what differentiates her ideas from other. Like, what if I said what differentiates my ideas from other people's ideas is that I believe that my jumper is blue, but other people don't believe that. I'm in fact wrong about that. Everybody else believes, who is not colorblind, believes that my jumper is blue. I can be wrong about that. I don't just get to dictate what differentiates my ideas. Like, there is an objective standard for what actually differentiates my ideas from other people's ideas.
Mm-hmm. And, and this is where Ayn Rand can call
That's
her,
what a
like,
historian does, A historian exploits that.
Yeah, and this is why, like, nobody else names their philosophy an ism, because it's commonly understood. Like, everybody will know what you wrote. Like, if we're talking about Ayn Rand the person, we can refer to her books.
I mean, this is
what Ayn Rand thought.
This is a specific fallacy that Rothbard identifies, right? He's like, I forget, like when he's talking about, the wrong, like, theories of history or whatever, he's like, like, one of the wrong theories is, like, that we would just take whatever some official said their intention was, right? As the, like, that's the cause. Yeah. That's why we did this thing. That's why the state did this thing, right? And and Rothbard's like, no. We have to look at, like, what we have to apply the laws of economics and actually understand what's going on here, to
I
see
have a
the actual
question.
causes of these things.
If,
You know?
if the philosopher does not get to dictate differentials or does not get to dictate their own definitions of what their philosophy is, can I be
It's not
is
a
it
definition though.
consistent? Can
The
I
problem is
be? Can
not.
I?
Sorry, go
Bruh,
ahead.
can you let me finish, please? Yeah.
Is it an
Can I call
objective
myself?
definition?
Can
No,
I
go
call
ahead.
myself
Let
an
us know.
bruh? Can I call myself an objectivist and claim that humans do not have a essential partial sense perception? Then call myself an objectivist.
Let me
Can I
field
do
this.
that?
Let me field this one. So
Go
it's nothing to. It's not that. Well, only the philosopher. We have to have that. We have to have that the philosopher is dictating these things, or else we have no means of doing it. Right? We actually do have a means of doing it. Namely, what I said, that you look at what the essentials of the philosophy are. You look at the essentials of what Ayn Rand is claiming. So if you're claiming that, well, I'm an objectivist and I believe that humans have no means of perception or whatever it was, right? If you're claiming that, well, no, that's actually objectively at odds with what the essence of objectivism is, as espoused by Ayn Rand. But that doesn't mean that Ayn Rand gets to arbitrarily dictate whatever objectivism means. Even Liam would agree with this, because he says that Ayn Rand couldn't arbitrarily say that objectivism is now Christianity. No, we would still know what objectivism is, even if Ayn Rand did that, right? But if as what you're saying is true, that the philosopher can just arbitrarily dictate these terms, well, then Liam would have to concede that, objectivism would therefore be Christianity. That he would have to concede that.
Yeah,
but
it
my
can't be
problem in
arbitrary. Go ahead, sorry.
my problem there would be saying that this is the essence of objectivism already presupposes that we have an established definition of what objectivism is before we get to talk about its essence.
We do. The thing is, how we...
No, a concept of meaning is not its definition. Full stop.
There's a key distinction here. Like, the Ayn Rand is not claiming that the definition of objectivism is her philosophy. She's claiming this is the name of her philosophy. The thing is, we do not need an extra name for what we already know is Ayn Rand's works. Like, this is where like the English point comes in. Like, when do we need an extra name? When we are uniting a lot of particulars, i.e. creating a tradition, right? So Ayn Rand's philosophy, we already know that. We know Ayn Rand the person. Like, we don't know, like, the usage of ism is wrong here, in effect. And that's what I'm trying to say, in the sense that it shouldn't be objectivism, because everywhere we have used ism is where we are uniting a lot of philosophies, a lot of particular philosophies, i.e. particular people's ideas, into a singular unified tradition. Libertarianism.
It's also wrong to call closed objectivism a philosophy at all.
Mm-hmm. And see, like, that Ayn Rand had a philosophy. Like, every person has a philosophy, right? And we don't need an extra word to define their philosophy. In English, we don't. And if she wants to write in English, then she should follow the rules of English. No?
Yeah, because we already have the term Ayn Rand's philosophy. We already have that.
I would think philosophy is more like an activity that, like people can participate in, across like generations.
I think the point here to think about is that whatever you call it, A, B, C, D, like, I don't need to get into whether it should be called objectivism and how ism works in English language. There is something, it's systematic philosophy, right? It exists. Whatever you call it, it exists. That Rand herself created. By created, I mean like coined, came out with, okay? And it is integrated, it is systematic, and it is rigid. Now, by rigid, I don't mean like you disagree with Rand on her favorite chocolate and you cannot be part of it. She did like, there are certain elements of how rigid it is. And whatever you call it, this exists. So, like, when someone says, right, that this is where my problem is, I don't think like humans can pursue like photons, but I am an objectivist, or I am this, or I do agree with this thing that Rand has integrated, like, that's like, no, like, you shouldn't identify yourself with Rand and her integrated systematic philosophy because you're openly contradicting it. You can claim like objectivism name doesn't fit to it. He doesn't get to dictate the like linguistics or plausible
Do you
history, but
think
doesn't change that
philosophy?
systematic.
Do you think
Bro,
philosophy
Let
can
us
be identified with a
Hold
finite
on, hold
list
on.
of predicates?
let her complete.
I
Let her
don't know
complete.
how relevant that is. Yeah, but
Well,
I
that's what
already
you're
forgot my train
claiming.
of thought. I already forgot my train of thought.
Either
So
you
So,
think
hold on.
philosophy is an
Can I
activity,
can I
or you
just
think philosophy is just like can be identified with a finite list of predicates.
I just want to jump in on
I mean, I
one
don't understand the question. So
I just want to jump in on one particular point here, which I think gets at
yeah,
something. So you were saying
Or proposition.
that objectivism is the philosophy that Ayn Rand created. As far as I'm aware, I might be wrong here, but I think Ayn Rand would disagree that philosophy is created. At least true philosophy.
Discovered.
She would claim that it's discovered, and that's why you can't copyright it, right? That's why you couldn't
yeah,
copyright
that's
some philosophical belief. But if she's discovering it, well, then there is some essence she's discovering. She's not just making it up as she goes along, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I fixed the word created with coins. It's just
Yeah.
DSL stuff. Like I noticed that mistake while I was saying it. I'm like, and then I was like, oh, it's coined or whatever. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
discovered is the correct word.
Yeah. So, and this is where I would, pose this question as. It's that if we are referring for a moment, let's say, like we're referring to objectivism as the closed people understand it, which is Ayn Rand's particular philosophy, then anybody who disagrees with any point is not an objectivist. What I'm saying, but what's important here is that this is not how we should do objectivism. Even if Rand thought this is how we should do objectivism, because ism is used in English language. It's not referring to particular philosophies, it's referring to tradition.
Well,
And so,
well, you're definitely
that,
like it's referring to a particular school thought,
but that school
which is a
contains
range of
multiple.
particular
Yeah. It's a
philosophizing.
range of particulars unified by a single conceptual common denominator, i.e., the primacy of existence.
Right. Yeah, but
Right?
like be sure to keep in mind like the sum but any principle. You know.
Yeah. Exactly. And this is where, so the way our approach will attack that person will be like, hey, you are outside the conceptual common denominator of objectivism, so you're not an objectivist. The way their approach would be is that you're outside of Ayn Rand's set of beliefs, so you're not an objectivist. So that's how both the schools would tackle it. Why I would say that it's better, and also there's a counter, which is that if yeah. So
And
the
but
counter is that
that's
our
not
approach is just
differentiating. That's not
yeah.
forming a concept, right? When you're saying objectivism is just this rigid, like set of beliefs or whatever that Ayn Rand had, right? That's not like you're not differentiating, a range, right?
Yeah.
Right. You're just
And
deducing from some definition.
and
That you
historically, exactly. Historically, you don't need you don't need a new word for a particular philosopher's thoughts because their name is enough.
I want to say it. I never said objectivism. That's a good point on your side. The Indian guy, I forgot your name, but the objectivism. I never claimed that it's a set of rigid beliefs. I never said that.
You said it was rigid.
Yeah, but belief is a different word. Like objectivism is a structure, rigid, integrated system. But it's not like when you say a rigid set of rigid beliefs, it implies like a random collection of personal opinions. That's not what
I don't know what you mean by rigid then.
Rigid would just
I
mean
don't
that
know
you
what
can't
rigid
deviate.
means.
You can't deviate.
Like, don't know what
That's
rigid
what I
means.
was interrogating you on when I was asking you
Yeah.
what you thought philosophy was like. Just a finite list of propositions. It could be identified with just a finite list of propositions, or it's just like an activity.
I'm pretty sure everyone can agree. Like rigid literally means not flexible. It's like the easiest word to define. So, are we really going to debate on the meaning of rigid?
In what sense? In what
In the
sense is
sense that
philosophy
it's not
rigid or
flexible.
flexible?
It's strict. Yeah, there's logical. It's logical. It's a system where conclusions are constrained by the foundational principles. I mean, I'm not sure why we're having like this conversation though.
Yeah. Why
You
go there?
really tried to emphasize the point that it was rigid, so I was interrogating you.
Yeah, it's a rigid system. It's not flexible. It's integrated, and conclusions are tightly constrained by this integrated system based on its principles.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound like you
it's not
explained
a.
it to me.
I just literally did. Like I literally did. I don't know what else to explain. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
you didn't explain anything.
I mean, it
okay,
just
like
means
that's your
like
opinion.
Imagine like a fort,
you didn't even say a full sentence there. So,
I literally did, but okay.
but you
you
didn't.
don't need to do.
So
Okay.
And so like, just to like on the rigid point, it can be just like in effect you can't deviate from the philosophy and still call yourself an objectivist. That would be the rigid point, right? However, like
yeah, what does that even mean?
So let's say
Oh my God.
anybody.
Andrew Wilson.
No, I can handle that. So let's say on the closed point of view, like if you are a person and you're saying that, okay, I hold 4 of these beliefs and 3 of them are in alignment with what Rand
That's
thought
the
in
closed
philosophy.
view.
And one of them is yes. That's the closed view. Like she was just describing that, right?
Yeah, it's exactly. That's why I was interrogating it. I don't know what's so
I mean, but
confusing
like
here.
the rigid point is
I'm trying to
correct.
understand what she means by that, and she doesn't seem like
Fair
she
enough.
has
Fair
a
enough.
very solid understanding of what that means.
I explained pretty well. You did not come up on why my explanation
You
is not
didn't even
sufficient
say a
enough.
full sentence, so that can't count as an
I
explanation.
literally,
Sorry.
I literally did. I literally did. So I don't know what else to say. If you have a problem, you can
The
point out where
recording
it's
is
missing.
anybody can look at the recording. You
Yeah,
just
fair
listed
enough.
off a
Okay.
bunch of
I agree.
Let everybody judge for themselves.
I agree.
Like,
I agree.
yeah.
You
So
agree? So you just
everyone,
listed off a bunch of
everyone,
bromides?
No.
I agree that it's recorded and
No
people
point.
can check it out. But everyone here
Yeah.
knows what rigid means. I already explained what rigid would mean in terms of philosophy.
No, you didn't.
I already explained that objectivism is rigid in a sense where it's a system where conclusions are just tightly constrained by its principles, its structure, and it's integrated. And that's what it says what rigid is.
By
And
its
there's no
essence.
need to elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
I
seems
mean,
like
it
a bunch
depends
of
on.
floating bromides to me.
No.
This is like,
Come on.
I don't even know. Like, I don't know. Like, you're the king of like just saying random shit,
Rigid
bro.
is
Like,
when you're just like really integrated and like it's tightly constrained by the principles.
Okay, Andrew Wilson. Okay, this is like incredibly bad faith. Like, oh, what's the definition of this? Oh, what's the sense? Here's the word that everyone uses every day in their word. Like, let me argue in the niche-pedia of this like one English word that everyone uses in their daily life, even though we all know what it means in
Are you
relative to
talking about
this as well.
words?
Like,
I'm talking
really?
about meaning. I'm talking about the meaning of those words.
Okay, are you telling me that
You
you
think
don't know the
meaning can be
meaning of
found in
rigid?
more words?
Yeah, but I'm not going to argue with you
Yeah?
about the meaning of
You think
rigid.
meaning can
Like,
be
this is
found in more
ridiculous.
words?
What? Like, I don't know. Why are you just saying random stuff, bro?
I was
Like, come
asking you a
on. Like,
question and you said yeah.
you can be more you can be more intelligent than this. Like, seriously. Like, you don't have to be this way.
And
Please.
now you're just ad homing me. Like, what is this?
There is nothing left to say. Like, I don't know how to continue this conversation. You're just saying random
If
stuff.
you really
Continue
think
that
about
later.
what G is saying, you'll understand it.
Yeah. No point. It's fine.
Just think.
Continue this later. However, like so on my previous point as isms identifying tradition. So like the approach that let's say Zulu and our kind of people were proposing is that let's say someone is developing on Ayn Rand's theories and they're doing so while being in the conceptual common denominator of consistently applying the
I
primary
don't think
sufficient.
we should emphasize tradition, more like intellectual continuity instead.
Yes. Like
Tradition.
in effect, the school of thought. We can call it the school of thought. Like it doesn't have to be traditionalism. Yeah. So objectivism then represents, as all other isms do, a school of thought. Like that's what the word ism should mean, right? And then we're not attributing Ayn Rand, the person, everything objectivism. Ayn Rand is a great contributor of objectivism and perhaps the greatest one that will ever be,
And
because
I
she
think we
defined
can
it.
only identify, like, we can only really integrate her contributions and like appreciate them, right? Like through
Yes. And
innovating on those ideas, right? Because I mean, especially philosophy, right? Philosophy is never like complete or whatever. There's a lot of integrative work to do, because just the fact that philosophy runs through every aspect of your knowledge, right?
For example,
it's never going to be reduced to some finite list of propositions.
Yeah, and sure, it's theoretically possible that, imagine, like, let's say in a scenario, if one person came and solved all of philosophy.
If you could reduce
right?
philosophy to a finite list of propositions, you would be able to do what Hegel tried to do and deduce reality from abstract like formalism.
Do we need that? Like, I'll have to think about it. Like, I'll have to think about that. However, like, so an example that I would give is that, I'm studying Ron Pizzatoro and James Elias's work on epistemology. So, from everything that I
You mean
know, I think
validation
they
of
are,
knowledge?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. So, like, from what I know, like, from my reading so far, I think they are continuing the objectivist epistemological tradition. And I would class
Yeah.
them as other authors contributing to objectivism. And I'm not saying that their work is Ayn Rand's work.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
just
a
saying
there's a
these are
there's a line of like intellectual
different people.
continuity that can be traced, like a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
historian does. That's what the work of the
Exactly.
historian is, you know?
Exactly. It's a continuity which is being traced from the originating works of Ayn Rand. Like, she is the originator of
Yeah,
objectivism.
and we
That
can
is beyond doubt.
trace that all the way back to Aristotle.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We can. And ultimately, then pretty much all philosophies will collapse into the primacy of existence school of thought or the primacy of consciousness school of thought with bifurcations going all the way down, right?
Yeah, but I think maybe that's like a bit of a simplification, you know?
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. So I think that is my point would be that even if I don't know, like maybe there is like some counters, like I've seen some open objectivists argue that Ayn Rand didn't ever say this or whatever, but even if she did, like the of the English language supersede her in this. So
Yeah,
I would say on that grounds we would be correct.
Yeah, it's like
Well, yeah, it's a natural language, right?
it-
And for the same reason she can't dictate natural language, there's the same reason she can't dictate philosophy because it's not fixed in advance.
you know,
It's an activity.
it's like, I know there is this claim that Jesus never claimed to be God, which, if true, very devastating. But you don't actually require that claim to debunk the claim that Jesus is God, right? Similarly,
Yeah, we don't have any
you don't
evidence
actually
of that.
require the claim that Ayn Rand never claimed objectivism to be a closed system, which, is up for debate. But you don't actually require that claim. Even if Ayn Rand did claim objectivism to be a closed system, simply she does not get the right to dictate the language we use. Right? She's not able to do that. And, that doesn't make you a non-objectivist, right? Because if we're right, if we are correct, well, then that's not part of objectivism.
Yeah.
But everyone there are people who thinks they are correct, and definitions do not care whether you're correct or wrong. It cares about categorizing and understanding the differences, right? So you do have to have a different word for those who agrees with primacy of existence and doesn't agree with the other integrations of the philosophy. And then those who is like, okay, look, this is, I agree with how Rand integrated it.
What if they aren't integrations of philosophy?
I mean,
So it's like
they
it
can
could
just
be someone who accepts like the existence axiom, but necessarily not like agree with other parts. It could be your politics, it could be aesthetics, it could be the epistemology, right?
Well, that isn't what is essential, though.
I mean, the thing that is essential about her philosophy is she identified like man as the heroic wing and productivity as his virtue, and et cetera, right?
What is essential to what is essential to her philosophy is the explicit identification and application of the primacy of existence to every philosophical issue. That's what is essential to her philosophy. Not that man is a heroic being. Plenty of other philosophers believe that man is a heroic being. Right? That's not what is essential to objectivism. That doesn't distinguish objectivism from every other philosophy.
Guess, like, is the word essential really different than the word essence? Then maybe yes, but the essence of her philosophy is
well,
like the essence of the philosophy is like man as the hero thing.
Well, the essence of something is differentia.
Yeah,
I mean, it would define
is epistemological.
Yeah,
like even Liam said this. Like he said, yeah, no, the essence of I don't remember his exact words, to be clear. He was agreeing with me that, yeah, no, there is this essence to objectivism, that it is, and Peikoff says this as well, that it is this application of the primacy of existence to all these philosophical issues. That he was agreeing with that. Peikoff agrees with that. Like, that's not the point of contention.
So, like, the essence of objectivism is like she like really got into that. The essence of objectivism is not like how she defined it is not contradictory with what you said. The point I'm trying to make in here is that objectivism cannot just simply be the primacy of existence, or you cannot just simply say that it's the
I'm not
correct
saying
application
that.
of primacy of existence.
Well,
I'm not,
again,
I'm
I think
not.
that's what
Hold on, G. To be clear, I'm not just saying that objectivism is just the primacy of existence. I've never claimed that. People claim this about me, but my definition at no point states that it's just the primacy of existence. Like, so I just want to stop that right here. I've never said that objectivism just means the primacy of existence. Never have I ever said that.
Okay, you did say it's the correct application of the primacy of existence, right?
It's the application of the primacy of existence to every philosophical issue.
Okay, so if someone says, I have the correct, G, please, I beg you, G, please, stop. What if someone says, okay, I have this consistent application of primacy of existence to every other dimension?
Oh, G, please, just let her finish.
Let her
I'm
complete.
about to get on a point. I have 2 minutes. I'm about to get on play, please. Okay, what if someone says,
G, please just let her finish.
okay. Okay, what if someone says, I have this consistent application of primacy of existence to every branch of philosophy, and it's like completely the opposite of what like Aaron has said or what objectivism is. How do you differentiate his views compared to your views if you're studying philosophy and you have to differentiate between these two views?
Okay,
How do you do that?
So what you would do is you'd look at whether it actually, in fact, is an application of the primacy of existence to that branch of philosophy. I could say, well, I'm applying the primacy of existence to all my branches of philosophy. What I believe is that, I agree with Plato on metaphysics. I agree with Kant on epistemology, and so on and so forth. Well, just factually, I'm not actually applying the primacy of existence to every issue in philosophy. So that's what you do. You appeal back to reality. That's how you do it.
Yeah. Logic.
Okay, but then there's a problem that categorizations and definitions, especially in the study of philosophy, does not matter if it's correct or not. But if the tradition is created, even if it's false, right? There's a way we name these, and then there's a way where we name another one, so we can actually differentiate them. Like that's what I'm trying to say.
So I'm not. Hold on. I'm not actually saying that the primacy of existence is correct here. I'm asking whether I actually am, in fact, like this is the truth claim, that I am, in fact, applying the primacy of existence to every major branch of philosophy. That's what I'm claiming, right? It's not whether it's correct to apply the primacy of existence there. That's the difference here. So you could identify pragmatists in the same way. Are they applying the standard in every question in philosophy that is their approach that the true is that which satisfies one's purposes? That's how you do it. It's not whether that's correct or not. So I'm not claiming that objectivism is this frozen abstraction, that objectivism is true philosophy. I'm not doing any of that.
Yeah, very great conversation. I'm on a plane. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the explanations, Zulu and Mansharma. Everyone have a great day.
All right, see you.
Have fun. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you for talking with us. Have a good plane trip and don't let the door hit you.
Yeah, G, you're unmuted now. I just had to do that interrogation.
Yeah, I mean, there's just some things I wanted to point out there. I mean, like, she even basically admitted it when she said, like, that we differentiate these concepts by the name we give them. And like, I don't know, it's just like there's just a massive like sense of just like epistemological like just
authoritarianism
or like neglect, right? And that's why I was saying, like, what is objectivism, right? Because if you answer that question, what is X, with a definition, you're a rationalist. That's a key test for rationalism. If you answer the question, what is X, with a definition, you should be pointing to, I don't know, my particular philosophizing activities, which are less different from, let's say, Zulu's particular philosophizing activities, compared to the greater difference between both of those and, you know, a far distant foil, right? Like Plato's particular philosophizing activities, right? You know, that's what that's what objectivism is, right? But again, right? I also wanted to ask her. The question I was like trying to say I wanted to ask her was just what's the cognitive role of definitions? What's the cognitive function of definitions, Sue?
Yeah.
Because this is a topic that's discussed extensively in the literature
In
on objectivist
objective. Yeah.
epistemology.
Yeah.
and she would have
And
no clue how to answer that
mhm.
question.
And I think where I'm not going to say this about all closed objectivists. I'm just this, and I'm not. If I'm wrong about this, Sue, please do correct me. Like you know where to find me. Uh, I think the problem that she was having was, let's say there is a dumbass on Twitter who says that, okay, I am a Muslim objectivist. I am an objectivist. I believe in the primacy of existence, and I'm a Muslim. And if you disagree with me, you're one of those closed people. So someone who would hide behind the open label to just believe in contradiction. How would we deal with that person? Well, the answer that
Like
the
anybody else.
closed, yeah, and and this is the problem, that the answer that
Just
the
like we
closed
deal with
people would give.
these posers like fucking Sue and Divinity. These guys are complete posers.
Okay, Civil War time. But the answer that the closed people would in effect give is well, you disagree with Ayn Rand, so it's an appeal to authoritarianism in effect, where Ayn Rand's word is authority. And I would say that's the wrong way
I
to do
mean,
it.
more
The
than
right
that,
way to
it's
do it,
rationalism. It's at its
yeah.
core, it's just pure rationalism. I mean, Peikoff, like I recommend everybody read Understanding Objectivism by Peikoff, or watch the lecture series.
Yeah.
The book is just a
It's
transcript
very
of the
good.
lecture series, but
Oh,
he really calls out all of these rationalist tendencies in objectivism because of their just like neglect of the epistemology,
yeah.
and they're just like their pre-existing beliefs that they're just like importing into how to understand objectivism. They start with like they usually start with like ethics or like Rand's fiction or whatever, right? And they get like drawn into like her view of like like Randian, like the Randian hero, like her view of heroism and all that, right?
Yeah.
They get so drawn into that they never like they never like stop to consider what epistemological process led to this conclusion,
Yeah. And exactly, then, and the closed approach I was saying was, it's reducing the problem of dealing with the annoying Muslim objectivist to epistemological authoritarianism. And
Yeah.
our approach would be the right way to do it, which would be to check if his premises are consistent with the
Well, here's a
application of
great way
primacy
to
of
spot a rationalist. Like I said, ask them what is X, and if they give you a definition, they're a rationalist. Plain and simple.
I'll think about
And
that. But
another thing I like to say is these people, it's like they think thinking in examples means thinking in like quotations. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I swear, that's how they
Mm.
think, They think in
I know what
truism.
you're referring. I know what you're referring, but I'll have to think about if Sue was doing that or not. I do not know.
She's definitely doing it.
I don't know. I'll have to think about it. So, but
Well,
I
yeah,
do
you would
think
have
that.
seen if I asked her the question, what is the cognitive function of definitions?
Mhm.
And she would
Yeah.
just be totally like clueless.
Mm-hmm. And what I would say is that
And anybody listening who's also totally clueless in the face of that question and doesn't understand the principle, I keep repeating that a concept's meaning is not its definition. If you guys don't understand that, you really got some work to do, before you
Mhm.
say anything on objectivism, really.
yeah, OTI would also be a great lesson. So objectivism through induction, if you have listened to that one, and it really is very very
Yeah,
good in
this is
terms
from
of
Peikoff's paper. I mean, his essay
yeah.
that's in Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology, the
Mhm.
the analytic
Fact and
synthetic
value. Oh, that one.
dichotomy. Yeah, that one.
Mhm.
That's where he talks about this work, like where it was first brought up that a
Mhm.
concept's meaning is not its definition.
Yeah, and the counter that I can see from, let's say, Sue would be that okay, but you can be problem is that you can be wrong about applying the primacy of existence, and what do you do about that? Well, I would say that's just a fact of reality, that people can sometimes be wrong. and we can't
no, I think
do
it's
anything
just
about that.
her
You know,
conception of what fucking the primacy of existence even is. You know, she takes it
and yeah,
as a
exactly.
truism.
Like,
She takes it as a truism, completely detached from the epistemological processes that uh,
mhm.
that were were the means of arriving at that conclusion. You know.
Mhm. And yeah, exactly. And like, the problem is that the epistemological authoritarian approach gives a semblance of solving the problem and like protecting the integrity of the system, but in truth is doing more harm because you're abandoning objectivism to defend objectivism in effect, right? So like, what's the point of doing that? It's better
Yeah, I
to
mean,
accept that there will,
there's been a lot of innovations in epistemology since
yeah,
Rand's writings, right?
yeah, and that's not considered part of objective. That's the problem. That doesn't get highlighted. A big problem with that. And the problem is that it's much better to just accept that there will always be some dumbasses who believe in contradictions and will call themselves whatever you want, no matter what you think about it, no matter how many good arguments you throw their way, and
It's like
even you can be wrong sometimes.
people totally
Yeah.
forget the spiral theory of knowledge. I mean, they probably don't even know what that is. You know,
Hmm.
I mean, Rand.
Hmm.
There's a story like how Rand, first arrived at her understanding, like the basics of, her theory of concept formation, right?
Hmm.
And that she just thought about it for like 30 minutes after some like nominalist asked her about it, about the problem of
Acquisition
universals.
answer.
Yeah,
I
so
think
she
it was
just
an
thought about it for like
acquisition.
30 minutes and she arrived at it. No, bro, she had to spiral back tons and tons and tons of times, and many other people
Mhm.
had to do that spiraling as well,
Yeah. And that's how it is, right? Like, so like, you just understand that, okay, objectivism, the school of thought, is like, it is correctly applying the primacy of existence to whatever question of philosophy you have, and some people will do it wrong and still claim that they're objectivists, and they'll just be wrong. You can't do anything about people being wrong. That is part of free will. You can be wrong. So like,
Yeah, I mean, ironically, they're the ones that's applying it wrong. Well, not
yeah,
applying it at
and
all.
exactly like that. Exactly, right? Exactly. So, and if people are wrong, let them be. Like, leave them alone. Like, shrug. Don't
Yeah,
interact with them.
yeah. I mean,
Like,
I'm reminded of like the
mhm.
birth of like natural philosophy, right, with Thales and stuff, right? It's
Ah,
because he
yeah.
he appealed to like explanation in nature, right?
Yeah.
Water,
Mhm.
remember water is the source of all things or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's because he appealed to an explanation in nature that literally any test he did, right, to confirm his hypothesis there would have immense amount more success than any other like supernatural explanation, right?
Exactly.
So in order to
Yeah.
contend with Thales, right, you would have to come with your own natural explanation. You have to look at nature, right?
Mhm.
And that's what happened.
Exactly.
I read this whole
Yeah.
book on Thales, which is great. This
Yeah.
this book by Patricia O'Grady on Thales, such a great book.
Tales of Miletus. Yes. Yeah.
Thales.
And
I just had to put that out there.
Thales. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So, and that's the key differentiator between the approach of our two schools of objectivism. The closed people, they're trying to protect objectivism by, in effect, going away from its essence. Like, okay, and we are trying to, quote unquote, destroy objectivism by sticking to it. So,
Yeah, not moving forward it's not it's moving backwards. You know what I mean? In a changing
yeah.
world, right?
Mhm. Exactly. And and that has been a problem because uh, if a newcomer comes to objectivism and they read all of Rand, like, oftentimes it's like, okay, that it's done, the literature is done. Finding newer innovators, it's very hard because they're not considered objectivists and they apologize 5 times before presenting
Yeah,
a
I mean,
theory.
Hold on, let me just jump in on that. It's very much like the neo-prags or the old prags we'll see in the libertarian movement, where it's like, oh, the time for theory is done within libertarianism. Now it's time for action.
Yeah,
It's very much the same
exactly.
character. Like, no, the theory actually isn't done yet. And also, you don't know the theory that has been done yet. You don't know these things, neoprags. No, the time for theory is absolutely not done. And every time you guys try action, your pragmatist bullshit, every time you try that, it completely fails. Could there be a bigger condemnation of you that you believe that the true is what works and your beliefs don't work? Could there be a bigger condemnation? I don't think so.
I think there might also be like some misunderstanding there that comes with treating it as like a theory, you know, and not a philosophy, not you know, a branch of philosophy, right? As philosophy. You know what I'm saying?
It's the theory practice dichotomy. It's like, okay, theorized, we built a beautiful thing in our heads. Now somehow we have to get to that, and how do we get to that? There is no particular means. Just do anything works, right? Like the theory has no particular thing to say about action. It is just dreaming a perfect world in our head and then somehow trying to get to that. And you can see why that fails, because you know, you don't get your desired ends by just any means necessary. Like there is a particular means which gets you to an end, you know?
Yeah, but I also
And
think
like,
it's like, I mean, like,
Anyway, Irish exit. I gotta go now. See if there's any more chats to read. Yeah, they'll be going in that Discord for a while, so I'm gonna jump in if you want. The link will be active for 24 hours. The top chat, let's do funding. Yes, Superboy Boys, aka 5 Chronic 007, who's a mod of mine, gave $2 Australian. Thank you very much, man. Who says Los Angeles is full of Proudhon and his queers, referring to when in Mozart Was a Red, Murroth was like, yeah, I mean, Los Angeles is full of queers. So yes, thank you very much for that. And yeah. See you later, guys. I don't know when my next stream is. Don't have anything planned, I don't think. But yeah, thought it was a good debate and a good after stream discussion. So see you guys next time.